are watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
Turn the regular dad into a law-breaking superhero, we exclusively follow controversial pressure group Fathers for Justice on their protest trail, up to and including their assault on Buckingham Palace. Dad's Army, the men that stormed the palace, contains strong language throughout.
All right, here's a question for you. We all know being a sperm donor makes a man a biological dad.
Okay, that's right.
Father.
But does it make him financially responsible for the child as well? Many women in same-sex relationships who want to start families look for a sperm donor. For Jana Mins and Deborah Morantz of Santa Fe, New Mexico, Kevin Zernig was their man. In 1994, Jana gave birth to a boy. According to court documents, the lesbian couple and the donor dad came to an agreement. The women would be primary custodians of the child, but Kevin would serve as a male role model, and he would not be financially obligated to support the child. But within months, the same-sex partnership broke up. And in the aftermath of the split, Jana kept custody. She and Kevin stayed friends, and he even fathered a second child for her.
He always was present in the children's lives.
Really what I would consider a smooth and really kind of supportive relationship in terms of the kids.
A similar agreement was reportedly reached for him to donate sperm for the second child. And once again, he would be a male role model, but not have financial obligations. But for the last 8 years, Jana and Kevin have been involved in a court battle. A bitter dispute initiated when Jana suddenly sought child support payments from Kevin for both children. He argued, in part, that he was not required to pay any child support because he was a sperm donor. Jana felt Kevin was both sperm donor and doting dad, and as such, obligated to pay child support.
He wasn't interested in the accompanying responsibility to provide financial support for the kids.
It's not supposed, technically not supposed to be true, but basically, if you want to see your kids, you better pay.
So how did this legal drama end? The court ruled that because Kevin has taken an active role in raising the children, he is liable for child support.
Joining us to discuss this, Father's Advocate Glenn Sachs is back with us today. Also, attorney Enrico Mirabelli. He's tackled this very issue in court.
Child advocate Trenny Stovall and reproductive attorney Melissa Brisman. Glenn, I gotta say, it seems, you know, a lot of people would say that Kevin now, the dad, the donor dad here, is kind of being punished for sticking with the contract.
Yeah, I mean, he did the right thing. He upheld the agreement. And not only that, he's been kind enough and loving enough to have been a part of these children's lives for 14 years, been supporting them for 14 years, helping to raise them, having them in his home every weekend and over the summers and all the, financial burdens that come with that. And then here the mother likes to rhapsodize about what a wonderful dad he is, and it's so great, and now here's an invoice.
But then, but how much time did they say that he would spend, and then you start to create this relationship? It's like, isn't he kind of having his cake and eating it too?
He is. He's a father. You cannot be a part-time father. With being a father comes rights and responsibilities.
But they did sign a contract.
They signed a contract at the beginning that said he would serve as a role model. This man has not been a role model. His whole life has shown the behavior after the contract has been an intent to be a father.
No, he's being a good role model.
No,
he said he was going to do.
He has
been a dad legally. As he registered with Vital Statistics as a dad. You can't register as a dad with the Department of Health and then say you're not the dad, you don't want to pay for the child.
Well, right, but whether he's, even if you want to consider him the father or whatever, and that's fine, how does it logically say that he should be paying her child support? It's not like they were together for...
Every father has to pay child support.
No, and that's the problem there.
Wait, can we take away the word pay? Because when you take care of your child, that is not pay, it's not a coat. The child deserves
he's been taking care of his children for 14 years.
Let's talk about this legally. Does it set a bad precedent?
A bad precedent. And what the ladies are missing here is that they made a contract, and you have to stick to the contract. They knew he was going to be a role model, and you can't change the goalposts.
It's not enforceable. Just because you write it down on a piece of paper doesn't mean that it's supportive
just
of the
because a woman
husband.
promises something doesn't mean that she should have to follow it up.
You know, this
You can't
Doesn't mean she
contract
can't just
for a
turn
price.
around and knife the guy in the back when it's convenient.
Rip it up.
I was going to get involved in something like this, or I was thinking about it. On either side, I would definitely have reservations now because there is a contract that was signed. It's null and void now, and the man is being...
I think that you have to continue to look at what the parties intended. You talk about setting a bad precedent. What about, you know these children are going to be parents one day. What about the precedent of someone who acts as daddy? He didn't serve as a role model. He was daddy all these years, and to think that he doesn't have to pay support. You're setting a precedent for these children to believe that fathers shouldn't pay support.
Here's the problem with court. There's a contract. People make contracts for adoptions. We live with contracts. We're a country of laws. If you make a contract and you agree, and then the court sets it aside, consenting adults aren't going to be able to have these contracts.
Courts allow contracts to be modified. A modification requires that both parties do something different. The difference here is he got to be a father. He got to have visitation. He got to have a say in the child's life.
You know, you
all
act
of his
like
time,
he's
and
scamming
therefore
people.
you get to pay support.
You act like he's scamming people because he loves these children and has been taking care of them.
He should
and he has
take care
been
of them.
supporting them for 14 years. A father's not just a check.
He should support
lady.
them.
A father is not just a check.
I would
No,
advise
he's not.
friends don't let friends be sperm donors.
Well,
Anonymous
No,
sperm donors.
because I disagree with you.
In this case, they didn't do anything by the law. Under New Mexico law, you have to go to a doctor. You can't do it in your kitchen.
Well, it's an interesting case, no question about it, Juliet.
There are other cases like this one being debated right now. You can log on to our website at mnjshow.com, and you can get some more links to all these cases. Don't go away. We're going to be right back.
You're watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
Hands up who's prepared to get arrested today.
All right, guys. For my children's rights, I demonstrate. Why can't we see our kids? Why can't we see our kids? Why can't we see our kids?
This is Fathers for Justice at Work, a controversial direct action group dedicated to changing family law in Britain. All of these men believe they are being unfairly denied access to their children. For the last 4 months, I followed the group's leaders as they executed a provocative campaign of stunts and attacks on the establishment.
That's your armed response. No, let's not talk about it. Let's get a van, let's get a lawyer before I change my mind.
I wanted to find out what turns a law-abiding father into a law-breaking protester. But I could never have imagined that my journey would lead to Buckingham Palace and an assault that would propel Fathers for Justice to worldwide notoriety.
Justice for our children!
On a rainy morning, 2 months before his notorious assault on Buckingham Palace, I found Jason Hatch halfway up a ladder. The building this time was Gloucester Crown Court, scene of many of Jason's legal battles for contact with his children. For Jason and his fellow members, every roof scaled is one in the eye for the system they feel has let them down so badly.
I've been saying for 12 months I'll conquer this court roof, mate, and I have. So even if they lock me up for this one, it's worth doing.
Joined Fathers for Justice because I didn't think there was a men's movements group out there which were as active as Fathers for Justice. That's what I wanted to do. I needed to do something. I had all this energy and all this inside needed to be directed at something.
Jason told me he has problems seeing 2 of his children from his second marriage, which ended in acrimonious divorce. His ex-wife and children live only 100 yards away from his house, but despite various court orders allowing him contact, Jason says he's only spent time with his kids 4 times in the last 3 years.
I'm angry and I'm passionate because I love my children love me, and yet I'm still not allowed to see my children.
Fathers for Justice demand a change in the current family law to remove what they see as an inherent bias towards mothers. Jason and men like him believe the court system consistently fails fathers by denying them reasonable access to their children.
We've got to start having people accountable for these decisions that the judges make. You know, a father can see his child once every 3 months for a year, which is what one judge could give to me. That is absolutely shocking, to build a relationship, he said. How can you build a relationship for an hour and a half, once every 3 months for a year? You know, I don't live a million miles away. I'm not going to kidnap the children. So he had no rights to make that judgment, and yet he did. What you've got to do to see your kids. If they do lock me up, a bit crazy, then that's not going to be half as bad as opening that front door and seeing my children walk past in the mornings. That is a real heart terror. That rips me up inside. So there's nothing that they can do to me that is going to hurt me more than what the system's done to me. And when Fathers for Justice comes along, that really gave me that boost that I needed. And a lot of other fathers I know have said exactly the same thing. All they can think of is their children day in and day out. And when Fathers for Justice comes along, it's more than the children. You think of getting rid of this corrupt system where children are suffering, and fathers are suffering, grandparents are suffering.
Jason's friend and mentor is Matt O'Connor, the founder and leader of F4J. Whilst Jason's skills are about climbing buildings, Matt is the spokesperson and creative thinker. He's also a serial activist, having marched for CND, Amnesty, anti-apartheid and the miners' strike in the 1980s.
Hello, young man. Daniel.
Unlike Jason, Matt now has a good relationship with his ex-wife and does get to see his 2 children. Ironically, the amount of time spent running F4J means he doesn't get to see them that often. Matt admitted to me that he was a hopeless husband, one of his biggest regrets in life.
I yearn for this normal life that I used to have. I just crave to just go back to being married and, you know, being with the kids and, you know, just being a normal bloke, rather than stuck in this organisation, which is obviously there to do great things, and I have to live with it and work and carry it forward. But this time is great when I've got, you know, like these guys are fantastic. You know, they're just such phenomenally great children.
Have you ever seen Dad dressed up as Spider-Man?
No. No. Yeah, but Elvis, yeah, definitely Elvis.
And what do you do when you do actually get to spend some time with your dad?
We do fun stuff with him.
My own personal experience, where I nearly lost contact with my boys after an acrimonious divorce, resulted in myself and my ex-wife going through a highly adversarial system, which pitched the 2 of us, you know, really at loggerheads. And if divorce is like a burning house, going into the family legal system is like emptying a plane load of napalm onto the situation. The thing just went whoa. And you are treated like a third-class citizen if you're the non-resident parent, i.e. if you're not living with the kids. And there's no recognition of the fact that these children are your flesh and blood.
I do judo one, yeah?
Somebody had to do something. Somebody had to make a stand. And that's why I set the group up.
Members of F4J come from all walks of life, and Jason is probably the most committed member. His Gloucester home is always a hive of F4J activity.
Dave, we're leaving the back. Are we doing the back and the top?
I am one of the boys. I've had no training to talk to media. I haven't had it, you know, I'm not that. I'm a painter and decorator.
So just what are these chains for?
These chains have been around the front doors, where you've got a 2-door system that just be chained up and locked up there. My job title in Fathers for Justice is National Coordinator and Operations Manager. So yeah, let's go and have some fun.
F4J has grown at an enormous rate. They claim to have 12,000 members in 36 branches up and down the country, each led by a local coordinator.
Make sure you get all over that lot, Dave. Get with them gloves, Pat. Get with them gloves.
It's Jason's job to travel the country and encourage as much direct action as possible, from leaflet drives and small demonstrations to assaults on court buildings.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get in there.
After watching them glue and chain the doors of the courts, I couldn't help but wonder how much this was about protesting or how much it was about getting even with a system they can't beat. And so how do you feel when you're climbing up a building?
When I climb up a building dressed as Batman, I always dress as Batman. It's the adrenaline. I've got it flowing now because I know we're doing something tomorrow. Well, the whole of the week. I know we've got plans for the whole week. I'm buzzing. I'm starting. You can feel it now. You can feel it in me hands and me feet. I want to go now. I'm ready. But when we went out and had a look earlier on, the adrenaline pumping through me then, knowing that, you know, honestly, it's a feeling you'll never know unless you do it.
As well as court buildings, F and J like to vent their anger at the offices of CAFCAS, the Children and Family Court Advice and Support Service. CAFCAS is the body of ex-social workers who write reports on both parents for the courts to base their decisions on. F and J see them as another part of the system which fails fathers. Part of F and J's ethos is to maintain a level of humour in all their protests. Today, it's Batman and Catwoman making another rooftop statement.
Some of the things we do are very provocative, are very in your face, but a lot of people will still smile. You know, you see Spider-Man up somewhere, or you see the superheroes up, or even if you pat on a Prime Minister, a lot of people still smiled. I mean, it's very daring. Some would say it's cheeky, some would say it's irresponsible, but a lot of people will still smile, and we always try and use a bit of humour in what we do. It's a really important ingredient.
We're trying to make an escape here. It should be rather good.
Come on, Dave, fuck's sake. I always think for the guys it's some kind of like cathartic process where they can smile a bit. You know, it gives this guy hope that we can change the law, that we can make a difference.
Well done, darling.
Catwoman and Batman evade arrest by escaping from the back of the building.
Where's Dave gone then?
Dave's got the car.
What's just happened is we just took the piss out the Gloucestershire Constabulary. We've actually removed Batman and Catwoman and they're gone. And I love it. It's absolutely brilliant.
F for J's summer of protest was in full swing. Little did I know where it would end.
What's up, Scary Mary? You look scared of your own phone.
I am. It's costing me a fortune.
Hey, no worries. You could get yourself a better deal at Phones for You. Phones for You could find you a better phone and save you money on your bills.
Phones for You?
Phones for You.
Ambipure Inspirer. For Ambipure, there's nothing better than liquid perfume to make your home naturally attractive. Pure inspiration.
Panasonic Viera flat panel television with integrated digital tuner to access Freeview services. Experience a new visual era. Panasonic, ideas for life.
Ciao, Sophia.
Sorry.
Niente.
Sorry.
In Italy, different flowers have different meanings. Chrysanthemums, for example, are associated with funerals and sadness. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. HSBC, the world's local bank.
It's hell gardening in heaven, Bev. Even the snails have wings. It's worth it, mind. I am going to make Philadelphia with garlic and herbs.
It's been done, Dan. Cool, creamy Philly with garlic and herbs.
Not bad. Just make my rhubarb and sprout filling.
Philadelphia with garlic and herbs.
How far has he come?
Where does that go?
What does that feel like? Where will your curiosity take you? P&O Cruises. There's a world out there.
Come on, we're here.
Lucky! Click the door.
There he goes, Dad.
If you're a safe driver, More Than Car Insurance lets you protect your maximum no-claim discount and keep it protected for life, however many bumps or scrapes you have. In fact, More Than promise that your premium will never go up just because you've made a claim.
That's lucky. That's more than lucky.
Car insurance, don't accept less than More Than. Call 0800 300 202. It's a real winner.
Nothing changes. Welcome to the free market.
I saw officers with my own eyes.
What's this going to cost us?
You know, when you need to move the girls on, you come running. Sex Traffic. Thursday at 9 on 4.
Howard Bashford is one of F4J's newest members. He was a managing director of a major computer company, earning a six-figure salary. He'd always been a firm believer in the British legal system. That is until his wife left him, taking their son with her.
My wife and I had known each other for 17 years, and we'd been almost childhood sweethearts, and I totally loved her. And my wife left my home, and that was it. My life was shattered completely. She took my little boy. Following that, I was not allowed to see my child, and then I just started my court battles. But these are my court papers, and these are only part of my court papers. I have another set of boxes, probably as large as that, scattered around the house. In different bedrooms, but it's devastating to feel that 4 years of your life and the whole of your child's future sits in 4 boxes in Grandma's garage. The reason I believe that she doesn't let our child and myself have good contact is she moved on. Within a weekend, she moved her life completely on to a new life. Basically, she took the old one and she boxed it, she locked it, and she chucked it.
Howard has spent 4 years battling to get better contact with his son. He last saw him in August. His next contact is scheduled for 5 days at the end of October. I wanted to know what it was like trying to maintain a parental relationship with such infrequent contact.
All you can do is try and work as much as you can to make your child feel that it's a normal weekend and that you love them very much. And when you put them to bed, you stand there and you watch them. And all the thoughts about who they are, how they're growing up, what their school is like, what they do during the day, what they think. You just stand and watch. I have to admit that when he comes to our house for a weekend, I probably don't sleep for about 48 hours because I spend the night time just watching him in bed. And those moments are the most special moments in my life. And they're all I have, and I have to take every second of every hour that he's with me. And I can't give up one of those minutes.
I think the law is being cruel and abusive to children, and it has got to stop. Because That child is going to need his daddy. He's certainly going to need him someday. There's no doubt about that. He'll want him. But why leave him out now?
The court on 2 occasions has basically said, go away, wait 10 years, and your child might try and find you. I now understand. They told me to go away. This is what led me to go to the Royal Court of Justice, and as I'm no longer a parent, and effectively I no longer have a child, I left all of our child's toys across the steps of the Royal Court of Justice. It's the only way I could make a demonstration, and it was the saddest time in my life to see all of our child's toys strewn across the steps of such a building as that, and a building that's done to him what it has done.
Excellent.
I've come to a stage now where I do not trust the courts, and I know that the courts will not come up with the answer.
Howard has never broken the law. Even by staging his own small protest, he crossed a personal line.
I cannot believe, from where I've been in life, that I am now ready to be as active as anybody in Fathers for Justice.
I wondered how much further Howard would go to get his message heard. The family law system hasn't changed for 15 years, but the ground is beginning to shift. The Conservatives have changed their party policy, much of it echoing F4J's demands. It's the 22nd of July and the government has released a green paper which concedes the law needs reform. The main thrust of the paper is to make the courts take a tougher stance on mothers who flout court orders, and that the judicial process should be sped up. Matt doesn't think the paper goes far enough, but I think he's really excited to be sharing a platform with mainstream politicians. It recognises F4J as the main protagonist for change.
Obviously today talking about the green paper, so even though I haven't seen it yet. Oh, fuck it. Yeah. Right, okay, yeah, don't worry, you need alcohol.
Good morning. The government finally listening then?
I wish. Well, I think that for most fathers will be choking on their cornflakes, choking on their cornflakes this morning. What the government's basically doing is recycling the existing legislation, which is the 1989 Children's Act, and presenting it as reform. But that's what we've come to expect from this government. Right, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's important you deliver a consistent message, that the message is repeated, so it sinks in, because not everybody's going to catch every news bulletin, obviously. So we want to deliver a consistent news message.
Every single day, 100 children have lost partial or total contact with their fathers. That's over 40,000 children a year.
So we have a series of sound bites that we use today that kind of tie in with our response to the government's green paper.
That's 300,000 children in the lifetime of this Blair government. What we'd like to see is for the government to introduce legal presumptions to contact, presumption of 50-50 parenting time, so both parents are treated equally in the eyes of law.
And what I would say to Matt is we have to put the child's interest first, and the child is not a CD disc or something that you can pass between parents.
In law, the father's rights were protected the mother, rather than assuming that the child will go with the mother.
In law, the child's interest has to come first.
Right, well, I think you probably all agree on that, so the child has rights. And Matt O'Connor, thanks very much for giving us yours.
Pleasure.
And Margaret, thank you for giving us yours. Thank you.
OK, thanks. Let's finish GMTV. Hodges full of shoot.
Lovely, thanks mate, cheers.
Thanks, cheers. I am prepared to go to prison. I'm prepared to leave this campaign right until we get justice in family law, justice for our children, and equality of over 100 parents and grandparents a right in this country to see their children and grandchildren.
It's been absolutely manic. TV, radio, press. We've had the lion's share of the coverage. We've made another kind of massive leap forward in terms of getting the Labour Party and Tory Party start to fight over this issue.
Fucking hell, mate, you're going to look like Shirley Bassey out there on that.
Matt was clearly in his element, sparring with politicians, but I could tell he wanted to create some mayhem elsewhere. For Matt, a good target is one that wins column inches. And what could be better than the Church of England?
Hiya, my name's Matt O'Connor. I'm the founder of Fathers for Justice. Obviously, I appreciate if you keep us under your hat.
But just to inform you, there's a protest going on at the General Synod today in York, actually at York Minster. Fantastic. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Hands up who's prepared to get arrested today. We feel very strongly that the church is failing fathers, failing families, and most importantly, it's failing children. And so we are in action this weekend at York Minster. Look at that. Just hold your nerve, keep your nerve together.
I'd only spent a short time with Fathers for Justice, but it was clear the success of their protests had more to do with surprise and daring rather than their planning.
Well, we've been rumbled. The security guard has just come out and asked us what we're doing. We didn't tell him, but we're just going to have to go and do it right now.
Let me just go in, guys. Fuck it. Let's go.
While Matt and the others made their way to the front of the building,
Hang on, mate, hang on, don't shake it.
Jason and Andy began a long climb to the roof.
Right, guys, sorry if
The
you can...
plan was to walk reverently into the minster, fooling the doorman with the authenticity of their clothing. But suddenly they were off.
Let us in then, don't be stupid.
Go, guys.
After a brief scuffle, the Archbishop allowed Matt 2 minutes to address the Synod, the governing body of the Church of England.
I pray that you will help us change the law in this country to rebuild the family, heal the pain, heal the suffering, heal the anguish of children and fathers alike, and deliver us from the evil of family, law, injustice.
I am fucking sweating. I'm fucking sweating.
And I'd like again to ask forgiveness for disrupting the service. Thank you.
We're at the top, mate, ready?
There was a little bit of resistance, but
A little bit.
yeah.
A lot of resistance.
You could do more of this. We've already said, and we're in the Church Times on Friday, St Paul's, major cathedrals, major events. There's actually an ongoing rooftop process as I speak at the moment here on the church.
What, above?
I am the Cardinal of this lovely building. What is it? York what? Of York Minster. I will grant all you fathers out there access to your children. And most of all, children access to their fathers.
During the scuffle to get into the building, a glass door was cracked and everyone was arrested for criminal damage. Matt was in his element.
Oh, okay.
This is police harassment for peaceful protest.
Back outside the Minster, I met Gemma, Jason's girlfriend. Despite being a new mum, she'd arrived to give her support.
We just had a baby 5 months ago together, little girl. You know, I feel sorry for her because her daddy's got to fight for his rights, which means that, our life's sort of on hold at the moment. So I'm continuing to fight this law with Jason, so he gets what he deserves, and then we can get on with our lives, hopefully.
5 hours later, Matt and the others are released without charge, so Jason came down from the roof only to be arrested himself. Little did I know that within a month he'd become a household name for climbing a more famous building, and that his partner Gemma would share the front pages in a far less supportive role. The next day, Matt was elated. Although not front page news, Jason's exploits as the rooftop cardinal had made it into most of the national press.
There's a few of the papers. Let's have a look. The Sun calls us unholy fathers. Daily Mail, Minster Mayhem, Daily Mirror, Holy Disorder. This publicity is critical to creating awareness, to stimulating debate. That's what we're there to do. We're there to be provocative, we're there to be confrontational, and we're there to challenge people's views.
Yorkminster was hailed as a great success, but has left Matt with more bills to pay. Money is a big issue for F4J. Matt claims to have funded most of the protests from his personal savings. Now, even with a £25 membership fee, income isn't keeping up with expenditure.
Some people laugh and think we're sort of, you know, rolling around in filthy lucre, and the reality couldn't be further from that kind of portrayal, because we are fucked, basically. So it's a question of how fucked we are.
Well, I keep seeing all these £25, £40 cheques coming in.
Well, to cover £7 or £8 bill, you need a lot of bloody cheques.
Later that afternoon, the accountant arrived to check the books. The news wasn't good.
There's always that option for anybody.
Yeah.
You just stop trading, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah? You just draw the line, that's it, mate. You've ceased trading.
Yeah. That's not good when your cat starts to wind the fucking up.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I'd never seen Matt this close to tears before. I'd begun to realise that he needed F4J as much as it needed him. But how would he cope with this crisis? Despite their financial problems, Matt's bought a double-decker bus. He wants to use it to block the M25, and it needs to be given an F4J purple paint job. A group has been organised to rendezvous at Guy Harrison's farm in Sussex. Guy, a campaign veteran, was the man fined £600 for throwing flour at Tony Blair. After a 2-hour wait, there's still no sign of Matt.
Matt's on his way. I think his navigation is about as good as mine, so I think he was meant to be here about half an hour ago.
The boys have come down to paint the bus and do some work on the bus. They're meant to meet Matt down here with the kit. Of course, there's no sign of Matt, nobody can get hold of him.
It was Saturday about 7 o'clock. And he was spluttering and whatever, so I know he'd had a drink.
Can you explain what's up with Matt?
Well, we presume that he's well, we know he's got a drink problem, and we presume that's what we're putting it down to. Now, obviously, we're debating what we're going to do with F4J, because obviously this is not the first time we've been let down.
Absolutely.
But then what can we do now? I've got these guys down today.
It's much better to get Matt's agreement and understanding. He needs to understand he's actually, you know, fucking a lot of people around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, how are you?
Fucked, pretty much. Just a combination of pressure and stress and alcohol addiction.
Just one glass, and it just goes on and on and on, and he goes on like, I know he's gone on sessions like 3 days to a week, and he's out of action.
This is kind of like fucking tough time. This is the kind of real crux, because it's either all going to go completely pear-shaped, I quit or whatever, or you know I've got to fight that fucking battle. You know, biggest battle's not just with the government; it's with the bottle. But he's struggling. It is an evil problem.
Do you have any great regrets in life?
Yeah, quite a few actually. Well, it's just, you know, that I'm not there for my kids at the moment. Yeah, I've got, you know, 2 fantastic kids.
While Matt's drinking problem has dominated the day's business, Howard has arrived to help the team. It may only be painting a bus, but it's still an enormous step for him.
Now I'm totally lost. We are flirting with the law. I'm very scared of the consequences of that. I've been a law-abiding citizen all my life. I try to respect the law. I certainly can't respect family law anymore. And I suppose, in a way, we are encroaching in another area of law. But there's no other way to do this.
You come down to be a bit of an activist then, mate, haven't you? Jason Hatch. How you doing, mate?
But yeah, whatever we need to do.
But yeah.
So I heard you were painting. Is this the...
This is it.
This is going to be the masterpiece?
Yeah.
Big purple bus.
And the plans are to take it on the M25 and find a parking bay for it to rest. We need a driver, actually.
It may seem like a motley crew from the outside, but these people have the conviction and the guts to do what a lot of people say they do, but don't do. And you've got to admire and respect that. I'm very pleased I'm part of it. I'm very proud I'm part of it.
You always feel very alone as well.
Yeah.
And it's only, you know, Father for Justice and this kind of stuff that really makes you feel that you're not alone. You're actually in a huge, you know, majority of people.
Absolutely, but you have to do something. It's now come to the stage where something has to be done. I mean, these are children's lives.
There's no signal coming down.
You have a clue what you're doing here?
I haven't got a clue. Don't know.
No, thank you for your help. We'll see you again.
What you need is a bus driver.
So how was it done? How was
Busy. A little bit disorganised to start off with, but I think people just get things done. In the end of the day, everybody just mucks in, and the mission will be accomplished by the end of the day, I'm sure of that.
As Howard left, I wondered what was going to happen to the organisation he'd just signed up to. With both financial and leadership problems, F4J would have to come up with something truly extraordinary if they were to survive into their third year. They wouldn't have too long to wait.
Oi, you! Go on, get out! Come on, these are the new recipes. They have to be the best ever. Let's go. Wrong. Oh, my taste buds salute you. Well done.
The all-new range of home pride sauces. It was tough, but we got there.
In 25 years' time, the people of Britain will look back on this moment and say, ah, yes, that was the year which changed our world forever. Their world will be very different from ours, of course. They'll probably have mobile telephones and watch movies on shiny little space-age discs. And a Russian billionaire will probably have bought Chelsea. But in their kitchens and in their hearts, they'll still have McCain oven chips with less than 5% fat. I see a happy future, viewers, don't you? Chin up, Britain.
Quaker Oats So Simple now comes in different varieties. There's new apple and blackberry flavour, fruit muesli flavour, even golden syrup flavour. And because oats are full of slow-release energy, they'll help you get off to the best possible start. It's not difficult to find a breakfast that'll help you keep going till lunch. In fact, it's Oats So Simple.
I thought you looking, didn't I? It's all right. You can look. I'm so creamy, and yet so crispy. You know you can't resist me. Go on, take a bite.
Kinder Bueno. Deliciously creamy and crispy. So satisfying.
Yet so light.
Kinder Bueno. You can't resist it.
I'm 43. Thing is, on the inside, I'm still 17. I want a snog, not a kiss. I don't want to make decisions. I don't want to wear a watch. Sometimes I don't really want to wear anything. Finances, fixed interest securities and annual indexation thingies. Talk to me, Dad. I'll worry about being older when I am older. I'm only 17. Think I always will be.
It could be someone's very lucky day.
It's a lotto rollover this Wednesday. The National Lottery.
Think lucky.
Isn't it annoying when dishes aren't completely clean the first time round? And you have to re-wash? Stop! A new way begins today. New Finish 3-in-1 Brilliant. With its powerful new formula and unique Powerball technology, cuts through grease and blasts away all kinds of tough stains, delivering unbeatable cleaning and brilliant shine. New Finish. Brilliant results first time, every time, without re-washing.
Who are the greatest artists of the 80s? UK Music Hall of Fame, Sunday at 9 on 4.
Matt had arranged to meet Jason and another F4J member called Dave in London. I'd seen Matt bounce back from a drinking binge before, but with the financial problems mounting, I wondered if he was going to hand over the leadership to Jason.
There are a lot of problems, and a lot of those problems are still there. And I had to look at myself quite hard and try and say, you know, can we still do it? And the answer has to be yes, providing I'm strong, providing I'm mentally strong and capable of doing it, and with the guys around here supporting and all the rest of it. We have a job to do, and to help with everybody else, you know, we just do it, and we do it because we believe in it. End of story.
I realised, of course, Matt was never going to give up, and although they wouldn't tell me, I knew that something extraordinary was being planned. Just days later, I received a phone call telling me to go to an address on the Isle of Dogs.
Well, you've got a fence, and you've got a boat.
When I got there, it was clear that the plans for parking the purple bus had been dropped.
Then we need to pull that lad back over. You know, we need that lad.
Instead, the group had already decided on a new target.
But you can't see that.
I couldn't believe Jason would actually go through with it.
However far away.
And what are your concerns about this one?
The concerns of this one is there's armed response here, there's armed response here, there's armed response here, and that's just what we could see.
I think they'll be very reluctant to take a shot at you unless you're obviously a danger, yeah. Which if you're just walking along a wall, you're not, particularly if you're dressed as Batman.
Yeah.
You know.
To the balcony. I would like to do the balcony. I'd like to have the super dads or fathers for justice across this balcony bit here, because all this is packed with people, as you know.
Is it worth this risk?
Yeah.
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 It's if this comes off, this is mega publicity. You know.
What this would be worldwide, wouldn't it?
Oh, you and me.
Cheers. Bugger. This is the ultimate one, this is. This is the ultimate one.
How worried are you about the gun thing? The fact that there are armed guards?
See, the terrorist thing is a huge issue at the moment. It's a worry, but they ain't going to shoot us. We're fathers for justice. They can't shoot us. I'm a superhero.
Yeah, but they can shoot you.
Yeah, but I'm Robin. You can't shoot Robin.
The thoughts centred around the potential for being shot.
It's the nerves, the nerves.
And tension in the room began to mount. Then suddenly, Jason made a decision.
No, let's not talk about it. Let's get a van, let's get fucking going before I change my mind.
Me tense? No, never. I really am worried about this, to be quite honest. And it's totally unknown. We don't know how the authorities are going to react. You know, they could come down like a ton of bricks on all of us. Excuse the bush. I'm worried that they may overreact and shoot Jason and Dave.
I followed Jason's familiar painter and decorator van. The ladder was drifting off the roof rack, and I still thought they'd pull up outside the palace and change their minds. But they didn't.
Hold it, Dave, hold it, please. Give me a banner. Drop it down, go on. Banner. Hold that ladder. Father to justice! Father to justice!
No! Do not move! Get down that ladder, man! Get down! Get down! Get down!
Fathers for justice! There's 100 per day suffering at the hands of the family law in this country. Sorry to bother you.
Batman! We're proud of you, Batman!
Daddy loves them! Daddy's not giving up! He's not giving in the fight! A couple of hours, that's it. Cut the camera crews, cut the pictures. There's not, the camera crews are not here yet. No, they're not. No, they're not yet.
Amazingly, Jason looked calm and relaxed as he chatted to the palace security. Within a couple of hours, the media was streaming footage to every country in the world. Jason wasn't just on a 6-inch ledge, he was on a worldwide platform.
Good, Chase! Good, Chase!
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, actually. It's great, because obviously, I'm looking around for police watching me, but they don't look too clever, do they? They must really fucking hate us. You know, it's a byproduct of what we do that we highlight problems in security, but let's face it, it is only Batman up there. It's not a terrorist.
That sure would have looked good with Robin on that side as well. Oh, there's your arrows.
With typical PR spin, Matt had a soundbite to justify the assault.
No, boy!
We're in Her Majesty, you know, it's her court, she's responsible for the courts, she's responsible, ultimately she has to carry the account for what's going on in the family courts, and we wanted to take that message straight to Buckingham Palace, straight to the Queen's main residence, and send a message back. You know, as far as I'm concerned, we're here to do a job, and I want us to bounce back from our wobble the other week, and we've done that.
After 5 hours on the ledge, Jason was beginning to look exhausted. Below him, Dave was telling the world how an armed guard persuaded him down the ladder. After making sure he was still there for the 7 o'clock news, Jason agreed to come down. Buckingham Palace is a far cry from York Minster, and no one, least of all Jason, could know how much his time on the ledge would cost him.
Someday, everything will cost less than you think. With Dell, someday is today. It's our 20th anniversary sale, and this Dimension desktop with an Intel Pentium 4 processor is just £379. That's an amazing £50 off. Someday, everything will be as easy as Dell. You won't find Dell in the shops, so call or go online.
No problem.
Sainsbury's reckon they're serious about making the Taste of Difference range even better. So serious they've employed John Wood, a Michelin-starred chef.
Is it just regular stuff in posh packaging? Absolutely not. Take this cheddar, made from a 50-year-old traditional family recipe. To me, Taste Difference means the best of what we sell.
But you're going to say that, aren't you?
Not just me. We've blind tested all of our new products. If they don't come at dispatch, we don't sell them. It's about making everyday food taste great.
Hi, Barry Scott here, asking whether you have problems with limescale, rust, ground-in dirt. They're a challenge for some household cleaners, but not for Sillet Bang, the incredible cleaning sensation. Simply spray it on and tiles gleam. Limescale is simply calcium that sticks. And if solid calcium dissolves this fast, imagine how Sillet Bang works on taps and sinks. Soap scum gets washed away by Sillet Bang. Even outdoors, Sillet Bang just eats up rust and dirt. Look how it gets this old penny. Good as new. Glass, metal, ceramic, stone. Sillet Bang cleans up the lot. New Sillet Bang. Bang! And the dirt is gone.
The Airwick Winter Collection. 2 limited edition festive fragrances, mulled wine and winter's eve, guaranteed to bring the spirit of Christmas to any home.
Yeah, oops, I nearly dropped the phone. Anyway, oh Jenny, this new cat food looks almost homemade. It's Felix. It's called As Good As It Looks. Well, it's completely different. Sort of meaty flakes, very posh looking. Unlike Felix himself, and judging by a certain gentleman's behaviour, it tastes pretty good too.
New Felix As Good As It Looks. Seeing is believing.
Experience an exciting new mouth sensation. New Oral-B Sonic Complete. 3 modes let you customise blushing to clean, go easy on sensitive spots, and massage for individual mouth care. It's your mouth. Brush it your way. New Oral-B Sonic Complete.
In 90% of divorce cases, custody of children is handed to the mother.
The family justice system in this country is a farcical reactionary joke.
Bob Geldof looks at the rights of fathers and the law he believes is failing them.
This is a nonsense.
Geldof on Fathers, tomorrow at 9 on 4.
The following day, the police released Jason after spending a night in hospital suffering from dehydration. He was taken by F4J to a hotel in central London, where the mood was triumphant.
Come here. Good to see you. How you doing?
Not surprisingly, the assault on the palace had been F4J's most successful publicity stunt ever. They'd made the front page of every newspaper in the country.
Have you not seen it?
No.
Holy security Batman.
That picture.
It's just incredible coverage. It makes the Blair thing look like very small beer indeed. But it's better. It's not our fault if Buckingham Palace security is a shambles or the security in the House of Commons is a shambles. The fact that you can get a window cleaning superhero up onto Buckingham Palace in sort of less than a minute speaks volumes.
So I kept running, and as I'm running across this edge, right, all of a sudden you hear, and there's the bloke with the rifle from the front gate, right, he's ran across, and he's saying, please, hold it now, I'll shoot. Of course, as he says that, I hit this fucking concrete beam, so I'm like, oh.
The following morning, the world's media was still desperate to hear Jason's story. At 5:30, Jason was about to go on GMTV. Behind the scenes, Matt was in his PR element.
Love actually be involved. That Krights be involved. Krights Charles went through a really bad divorce. Get that in. That's really good. That's all the kind of stuff you can involve. You know, get the royal family involved.
But then the bombshell landed with the morning papers.
For God's sake! Oh, that silly woman. Why can't she just fucking behave?
Gemma's on the sun this morning.
Gemma's on the sun. Not bad, mate.
It would seem that Jason's girlfriend, Gemma, who I last saw at York Minster, had given an interview which went to every newspaper in the country. The articles paint Jason as an irresponsible father who's too busy campaigning to spend time with her and their daughter.
That's my private life. What you're here to do, you are a campaigner, you're doing it for a cause, and that's the way forward, yeah? So just don't get bogged down, alright?
I just had a picture of the children in my mind and just kept going. There was a guard down there with a semi-automatic rifle that clicked over a couple of times and just kept going.
What's happened is Jason's ex-girlfriend has literally spoken to just about every Tom, Dick and Sally. Anyway, I guess it keeps the story alive.
Jason had told me they'd already separated, but the papers were implying that Gemma had left him because of his latest F4J exploits. For Jason, the personal consequences of his actions were hitting home. Not only had he been trashed in the press, but he could be facing yet another court battle.
You've got a daughter with you. What's going to happen?
Well, exactly, I don't know what's going to happen. We were just talking about this earlier on. I don't want a court battle, but if that's what it comes to, then that's what it comes to.
Despite the shock of the press backlash, Jason was determined to defend his position as an aggrieved father.
Did you read that Guardian article this morning saying that, you know, it's like a hobby?
Well, I don't know.
The Guardian putting that in, saying that we do this for a hobby.
Not a hobby.
Believe you me, it's not a fucking a
It's an obsession.
It's an obsession to get this law changed. I ain't whiter than white. I don't claim to be. If you want a saint, you can go to Bob Geldof. You know, they come up with all this shit on the piss head, and you know, I scammed this bloody Buckingham Palace over drunken binge night, and I so-called bedded 100 women. What a load of tosh. I wish. Yeah, bloody hell, since F4J, mate, women have been, you know, like they chuck whatever they want to chuck at me. I don't care.
I mean, we both had a chat the other day about this, didn't we? That, you know, could we carry on with this? But the driving force is the kids. Whatever it takes, that's what we'll do.
Get you pulled up. Yeah. And then you sort your jeans over the bottom.
300 miles away, Jason's actions inspired another Batman and Robin to break the law. This time, Robin was played by Howard.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Howard?
Incredibly nervous. I'm very cold. I'm not dressed for this. I didn't think about what to wear at all on this occasion. So, totally with these on. Do I wear these jeans then, or am I going to get into something else?
Leave your jeans on.
This is the last thing I want to do in the world, but there's only one little guy that I think about, and that's our child. And I can't back out, and it's for our little guy. That's why I have to do it, and that's it. It's just black and white.
He's exhausted every avenue open to him in the legal process. And when you disenfranchise people from the legal process, people will break the law in those circumstances.
Justice for our children!
It's all about our children, and I hope that in the end of the day that no, he understands that he has two parents, and but I did have to go an extra mile or two for him, so I hope when he's 18 we'll be sitting there having a beer one day and be having a damn good laugh about that huge bridge that I climbed once.
Back in Bristol, Jason was in court again for yet another hearing to find out when he could next see his children.
Police vans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 police vans for a handful of protesters. The words overkill might kind of spring to mind.
F4J turned out to support Jason, but with his Buckingham Palace notoriety, the police decided to clamp down on any potential trouble. They prevented access to the court building. Matt was back in the thick of it again.
What do we want? What do we want?
I read in the paper that 50 men dressed as Batman were protesting outside the Colosseum in Rome. Branches of F4J were being set up in Canada and America, and 2,000 more fathers had applied to sign up online in the UK. One of Matt's cheesier soundbites called F4J the suffragents of the 21st century. Maybe that's how they'll be remembered. Eventually, Jason emerged from the court. His access problems remain unsolved, but his commitment to change the system of family law remains unshaken.
So you carry on scaling buildings? I want to carry scaling buildings, of course I am. I want to carry on being very active. I know I'm going to have to watch me back because I followed and everything else, but you watch. I've never let you down before. I told you I was going to do something, and I've done it on numerous occasions. Very shortly, I'm doing something else again.
For more information about the UK's laws on child residence and contact, visit channel4.com/family. Another mainstream campaigner for fathers' rights is Bob Geldof, and he explains the reasoning behind his views tomorrow.
Gay Rights TV, where the truth continues.
Domestic violence, double standards. Yes, when men are domestically violent, they're severely punished, but when women do the exact same thing, they are cheered. Let's look at what Monday Night Football announcers said about Ray Rice and the incident where he hit his wife after being hit by her.
The Ray Rice story. Very disturbing to see that video earlier today.
That is disturbing. There's no place for it in football or society.
Baltimore Ravens terminated Rice's contract today and released him, and Rice was subsequently suspended indefinitely by the NFL after new video surfaced this morning showing him punch his then-fiancée and now wife Janae Palmer in the face in that casino elevator in February.
Minutes later on Monday Night Football, here's what we see. That's a princess cut, she brags, to the delight of others, and at least one man cheering her on after she hit a man in the face with her fist. No one protests. She is not vilified or thrown out of her profession. She is cheered. Imagine if she was a man hitting a woman, and you can see the double standard pretty clearly. Carmen Electra was arrested for domestic violence, but it didn't kick her out of her profession. Last I heard, she was still making thrilling movies like her latest Two-Headed Shark Attack. In another elevator incident, Solange attacked Jay-Z, hitting and kicking. Was she blacklisted from her profession for her domestic violence? No. The biggest and most popular question was, what did he do to get her so upset? Just imagine people focusing on what Ray Rice's wife did to get him so upset, and it's easy to see the double standard. And how about the case of Hope Solo, professional woman soccer player? She went on a violent rampage, battering her own sister and the sister's 17-year-old son. She was arrested and jailed for domestic violence. Here's a part of the news broadcast.
American soccer star Hope Solo, who is behind bars tonight, due in court tomorrow. She helped Team USA earn 2 Olympic gold medals, but this weekend is making headlines for something else.
Deep cross, opportunity here, what a save by Hope Solo!
Star goalkeeper Hope Solo off the soccer field and behind bars this evening, accused of assaulting her sister and 17-year-old nephew at a party.
How did the Soccer Federation respond to this? They ignored it and decided on a wait-and-see policy. She's still playing and has even been made team captain. A spokesperson for U.S. Soccer said, but, she has an opportunity to set a significant record that speaks to her hard work and dedication over the years. Yeah. Even Kim Gandhi, a past president of Now, has come out saying that she should be sidelined. Double standard yet again. Then there's Kelly Brook. Check out this interview where she admits to relationship violence and seems to think it's funny.
As I headed back to the table, I saw Danny walking towards me. This is in Las Vegas. Babe, he said, I've been looking for you. I punched him straight in the face.
Yeah.
Deny that?
It's true, I did both of those things. And this is, you know, I'm not saying I'm an angel.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that things I've done are right. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do at all. But yeah, I mean, I guess I get some of that fiery passion from my parents. Yes, I guess so. Not that I'm going to make a habit of doing that in the future. I'm just going to pick more wisely in the kind of men I be with. Not that I'm going to make a habit of doing that in the future. I'm just going to pick more wisely in the kind of men I be with.
So she hit him in the face unprovoked and laughed about it, saying she must have gotten her passion from her parents. Then incredulously blames the victim by saying that she just needed to choose different men next time. Of course it's not her fault. She chose the wrong guys. That's why she hit them. It's their fault. All the while, everyone in the interview, including her, are laughing about this. Now tell me, what would happen if Ray Rice had said that he'd gotten his fiery passion from his parents and he would choose more carefully who he'd be with the next time? See the double standard? It's common now for men to be villainized for hitting women, but there's no reciprocal response for violent women. Nope, they're cheered, ignored, or they bring chuckles. This double standard is so massive that it simply can't be missed. We need to remedy this immediately. Either we hold the women accountable for their violence in the same way we do for men, or we should ease up on the men as we do for the women. Anything else would be hypocritical. Let's not forget, men are good. Is there a bias against men and boys in psychological research? I think so. Just as TV bashes and stereotypes men, we see similar sorts of things in psychological research where men and boys are simply ignored and marginalized. Don't believe it? Okay, let's look at a study from Great Britain on teen dating violence. This study was done in 2009 by the NSPCC, and it used questionnaire data from over 1,300 teens to try and understand teen partner violence. What they found was that boys and girls were both victims and perpetrators of teen partner violence. Here are some of the findings. Boys were 41% of the victims of emotional violence in teen relationships. Boys were 42% of the victims of physical partner violence in teen relationships. Boys were 34% of the victims of sexual partner violence in teen relationships. Boys were 1/3 of those who were victims of rape. Girls reported using violence in relationships 3 times as often as boys. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The study's filled with data from their questionnaires that repeatedly shows that boys and girls are both victims and perpetrators of teen partner violence. Read through the 209-page research report and you'll get an eyeful. But here's the problem. Even though the full report showed boys to be victims, The farther you move away from the full report, the more boys disappear. Read the executive summary and see how girls start taking the lion's share of the researchers' concerns. Then move a step farther and look at the press release, which focuses almost entirely on girls. Have a look. The headline reads, "Teen Girls Abused by Boyfriends, Warns NSPCC." Then notice the first, second, and third paragraphs are all about girls. Teenage girls in relationships suffer unwanted sexual acts. 1 in 16 girls said they'd been pressured into sex. A quarter of the girls had suffered physical violence, and on and on and on about girls, but almost nothing about boys. It's all about girls. But it gets worse. Look at the headlines from media stories about this research. 1 in 3 teenage girls tell of sexual abuse by their boyfriends. Third of teen girls pressured into sex. 1 in 3 teen girls has been sexually abused by a boyfriend. It's all about girls. But that's not the worst of it. Decisions were made resulting from this research about what could be done to aid the teen partner violence problem that had been detected, and somehow the decision makers read the research and came up with an ad campaign that used internet, print, radio, and television ads that, wait for it, helped girls who were victims of partner violence and taught boys not to be violent. So we do a study that shows boys and girls are both having a tough time in dealing with relationship violence, and what do? Once we start sending out taxpayers' money, we only help the girls. That's insane. I call this the See No Evil study. Yeah, we gathered the data that showed that boys and girls were both victims, but, well, we just didn't look at the boys' side. We ignored it and just focused on the girls. That is called misandry. Our second study brings us an interesting question. Can researchers' attachment to their ideology of women as victims and men as perpetrators drive them to misrepresent their studies in order to further their ideology in the media? We'll see. This study has to do with reproductive coercion. Most of us are familiar with the idea that women will sometimes intentionally not take birth control pills or will poke holes in a condom in order to get pregnant against her partner's wishes. However, this research tells us that it's the men who are doing the condom poking and coercion. I checked the study out on the web and was startled to see their statistical claims. Many of the articles said that 53% of women surveyed had experienced violence in her relationship. Wow, I thought, that's over half the respondents. That's quite a few. I read on, and other stats were quoted that were equally shocking about women suffering from reproductive coercion at the hands of their male significant others. I began to wonder how they got such alarming statistics. I searched and found plenty of media articles on the web on this research. One from Newsweek, one from Science Daily, one from Medical News Today, one from eScience News, one from LA Times, and others. They all made similar claims about this study and often used the same quotes and the same statistics. All of the articles talked about this study as if it applied to the general population. Then I found a college newspaper article from the Aggie, the student newspaper of the University of California, Davis. It happened to be the school of the lead researcher in the study. It's worth noting that the article states that none of the coordinators on campus at the Women's Resource and Research Center had ever seen this kind of abuse. Never seen this kind of abuse. Then further in the article, they say something shocking that was omitted from all of the other media articles. The Aggie article astoundingly said that the study was done on an impoverished population of females. It went on to say that according to the researchers, the study should not be generalized outside of poor clinics. Wow, should not be generalized? All of the national articles we've been seeing were generalizing this study as if it applied to everyone. The researchers didn't seem to tell the national media about their sample being mostly poor females. These national articles were now spreading misinformation. At least the exaggerated stats started to make some sense. The Department of Justice tells us plainly that intimate partner violence is much greater in impoverished settings. Here's a chart from their webpage. Notice that for those couples whose income is above $25,000 each, there is a much smaller chance of being a victim of intimate partner violence. Much smaller. Note also that these women in the lowest socioeconomic brackets are over 6 times more likely to be victims of intimate partner violence. That's a huge difference. Here's the problem. The researchers didn't mention that their sample was impoverished women in the journal article or in their press release. The media then mistakenly portrayed this study as if it applied to the general population, not knowing the facts of the true sample. The quoting of 53% victims of violence in relationship and all the other eye-popping stats may have been true for the population studied, but it is far from true for the rest of the nation. We know the researchers made a mistake that has sent misinformation to millions of Americans. We just don't know if the mistake was intentional. I wrote to the lead researcher and asked her why the socioeconomic status of the sample was not published in the journal article. I also asked her if she was concerned about the misinformation that had been sent through the media to millions of people who assumed the study applied to everyone. She's not answered either question. There's more that's wrong with this study. Notice that they didn't interview the men who were accused. They only interviewed the women who claimed to be the victims. That's a bit suspect, but even worse is that the only questions they asked the women were about their own victimization. There were no questions asked of those surveyed about their own coercive behaviors. None. This leaves the study only asking the questions that will show women as victims and men as perpetrators. It all makes me wonder. How about you? I called this study the Speak No Evil study. Yes, we know about our sample, but we just aren't going to say anything. The last study we'll look at is the Conformity to Masculine Norms Inventory, the CMNI. This is an inventory that claims to measure men's degree of conformity to masculine norms. The major problem is that some of the norms it chooses seem to be more about male bashing than about a true representation of masculinity in our culture. First, let's have a look at the norms that have been used in psychological research since the 1970s. Look at the list of masculine norms from left to right. Independent, competent, not feminine, aggressive, forceful, assertive, confident, risk-taker, yeah, all pretty close. Then look at the CMNI in 2003. Masculine norms now include violence, power over women, disdain for homosexuality, and playboy. We've gone from fairly good descriptions to male bashing. I asked the researcher how these norms were chosen, and he claimed that he drew them from the literature. He sent me an article that could help me understand. Take the Playboy example. It was drawn from a 15-year-old book that listed Playboy as one of the masculine ways of loving, along with faithful husband, breadwinner, and nurturer. But the researcher chose Playboy as representative of masculine norms, even though the book author stated that less than 1% of the men surveyed chose Playboy as their dominant role. Yes, some men are surely violent, but violence is far from a masculine norm. Rather than a norm, violence is when things fall apart. It's when the male role of provide and protect breaks down. To cast all men as having a norm of violence is hateful towards men. I think this inventory might be better named Conformity to Middle School Masculine Norms. This is far from the mature masculine. The focus groups that made the decision on these norms, the majority were women, and all were in their early to mid-20s. Asking such a young group to designate the roles of men of all ages seems pretty futile. I call this one the Hear No Evil study. It simply won't hear that most men are good human beings. As always, speak up and let folks know that men are good.
Soccer player Hope Solo was arrested for domestic violence. She beat up her nephew, and she also beat up her sister. Now, this is a big woman. She's about 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. Now, apparently she got drunk at a party, and she started beating people up. Now, what makes a lot of these feminists so hypocritical is when a woman commits domestic violence, they don't say anything. But when a man does it, they're boycotting Adrian Peterson, they're boycotting Ray Rice, they're boycotting Greg Hardy. But when a woman commits domestic violence, they're not saying anything. I don't see anybody calling for this woman to be suspended. She's not being terminated. She's not being punished whatsoever. And this is what happens when women commit domestic violence. They get away with it. They always get away with it most of the time. I remember the case with Lorena Bobbitt. Lorena Bobbitt was the woman that cut off her husband's dick. Her husband was cheating on her, and she cooked him some food, and she put some sleeping pills in the food. And while he was sleeping, she grabbed a knife and cut off his dick. And she played the victim afterwards. She never served any time in prison. She was let off scot-free. And this goes to show the big double standard when it comes to domestic violence. Because if a man was to cut off a woman's body parts, he's going to prison. Like, let's say if a man cut off a woman's breast, he's going to prison for the rest of his life. But women are allowed to cut off a man's dick and not go to jail for it, and not be punished for it whatsoever. And a lot of feminists actually defended Lorena Bobbitt. To this day, they're still making her out to be the victim. It amazes me how a lot of these feminists never realize their own hypocrisy. If you're going to be against domestic violence, you should be against domestic violence whether it's a man doing it or whether it's a woman doing it. If you're only going to be against it when a man does it, then you're a fucking hypocrite. I've seen plenty of cases where a woman will hit a man, a woman will throw something at a man, a woman will stab a man with something, and the police don't arrest this woman. The woman is not charged with anything. Why are women allowed to get away with domestic violence? I think if we're going to have domestic violence laws, it should go both ways. If a woman abuses a man, she should also get charged with domestic violence. The same way any man that hits a woman should get charged with domestic violence. You look at the Ray Rice situation. Nobody brings up the fact that she hit him first and started the whole altercation. Nobody talks about that fact. But everybody points the finger at him as if he's the only person that did anything wrong. Now, I'm not condoning what he did. The way he hit her was wrong. But she was also wrong for hitting him and spitting on him. That's what started the whole altercation. Feminism has completely destroyed America. Now, all feminism is not the same. There's a huge difference between a normal feminist woman who wants equal rights for women and an extremist feminist who wants men to have less rights than women, who wants women to have more rights than men. And this is the problem I have with extreme feminism. Because extreme feminism doesn't let women be responsible for anything they do. It allows women to get away with doing anything. No matter what the woman does, she's the victim. No matter what the woman does, it's the man's fault. And this is the problem I have with feminism. Women are allowed to get away with doing anything. I've seen cases where women will murder their children, drown their babies in a bathtub, and don't go to jail for it. Because people will say, oh, she's a woman. She's a victim. If you murder your children, you're not a victim. You're a murderer. But if a woman does this, she's allowed to get away with it because she's a woman. I remember the woman who drowned her 5 babies in a bathtub. And they just released that woman from prison because they say she was depressed and she had depression. And this is why they released her from prison. And I've seen numerous other cases where women will kill their kids or kill their husbands or kill their boyfriends and get away with it. And don't serve a day in jail because feminists want to play this victim card. I don't like the victim mentality, because the problem with the victim mentality, it allows that person to get away with bad behavior. It allows this person to escape self-responsibility. And this is the biggest problem with a lot of women in today's society. A lot of women don't understand self-responsibility. When you do wrong, you need to be accountable for your own actions. As men, when we commit crimes, when we hit women, we're sent to prison. When we kill somebody, we're sent to prison. But when women commit these same crimes, they're given a slap on the wrist. They're treated as the victim instead of the perpetrator. Now my question is, when is it okay for a man to hit a woman? I don't agree with men hitting women. I don't support domestic violence in any way. But I think there's some situations where you have to defend yourself as a man. If you're in a relationship with a woman and she's hitting you and she's throwing shit at you, as a man you have to defend yourself. And I think this is the only time when it's okay to hit a woman. I remember I was in a relationship when I was in college, and we were sharing an apartment together, me and my girlfriend, and I'm getting ready for work, so I get in the shower, and she starts boiling some grits. She starts boiling a hot pot of grits. And she comes in the shower and throws it on me. And the grits were so hot, it took the skin off my back. Now, I've never been for hitting women, but I beat this bitch's ass. I had to beat this woman's ass. I'm sorry. And they ended up sending me to jail for this. I ended up spending 30 days in jail for beating up this woman. And she wasn't charged with nothing. She never got any punishment. All the punishment was given to me. And this is the problem with the justice system. This is the problem with feminism. If a person starts a confrontation, if a woman started the whole thing, why is the man only punished? Why is the man only sent to prison? I've seen plenty of cases where men have gotten beaten up by women, have gotten stabbed by women, and the women are allowed to get away with it. The women are never charged with any crime. That's why the system needs to be changed. The justice system needs to be changed so there's no double standard. Women shouldn't be allowed to get away with abusing men, and men shouldn't be allowed to get away with abuse of women. Because in my personal opinion, if you hit a woman in self-defense, that's not abuse. I think the only men who are abusers are men who just hit women for no reason, who get a kick out of beating on women. I've never been that type of person. The only time I've ever hit a woman is in self-defense. You ain't just going to stand there and let this woman beat your ass. You have to defend yourself. So that's why the only time I've ever hit a woman is in self-defense. And I think that's the only time when it's okay to hit a woman. Now, a lot of the manginas will say you should never hit a woman no matter what. You should never hit a woman. And this is what the simps and the manginas will say. But if you get in a situation like the situation that I was in, where a woman pours hot grits on you, where a woman pours hot cooking oil on you, where a woman tries to stab you, where a woman is trying to kill you, you're not just going to stand there and take it. You're not just going to stand there and take it. So for all the manginas, all the simps who say a man should never hit a woman no matter what, these people are buffoons. These are the men that the reason why feminism has destroyed America. The reason why the justice system is so ass backwards. All I'm saying is there should be equal punishment for men and women when it comes to domestic violence. I saw a video of a man on YouTube. This is a man, I forget his YouTube name, but he posted a video where his girlfriend stabbed him in the face and he had all this blood all over his face. And he was saying that his girlfriend had tried to kill him. And he was recording this video while he was driving to the hospital. I'm going to show that video in this video. And it just goes to show that as men you have to defend yourself. It comes a time when you have to defend yourself. I'm going to show this video. Leave a comment, rate and subscribe.
So, my ex-girlfriend, she just beat me up because I don't want to be with her anymore. I just called the police on this bitch, and she outside right now. She just fucking cut me, punched me in my nose, but you know what? I'm still a man. I ain't no punk ass man because I ain't hit her back. I ain't hit her back. She bust my fucking lip, she bust my nose, and she cut me and shit with this blade and shit, and she out here. I'm calling the police on you. I'm calling the police on you. Get the fuck away from me. Get the fuck away from this car, bitch. You crazy. You crazy, bitch. Look what you did in my face. Look what you did in my face. Fuck you. I'm calling the police. The police is on this way. The police. Get off the fucking car. Don't break my fucking.
Krights TV, where the truth continues.
Just a note, this is not a full video about the topic. So the black guy that got shot, who ran because he thought it was about paying child support. Let that sink in for a second. Our country is screwed if men are being shot dead over child support. Judge Judy said this is due to judges handing children over to women when there is a standing law. It's supposed to be joint custody first, and only if the judge finds a pressing reason, a dangerous reason, the mother or the father shouldn't have custody with evidence, with proof, with a full investigation of the supposed danger, then you award custody to one parent, and the woman isn't always assumed to be the one to take the child. If judges wouldn't be handing out single custody, which is terrible for all children, boys and girls, we wouldn't even have a child support policy at all. So who is behind the curtain making judges give single custody over to women? I'll give you one guess. Leave your guess below. Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. So I'm going to make a really brief video. This is in response to the video that I made previously talking about Judge Judy saying that the de facto child custody law is that both parents are supposed to have custody because they are both parents. And instead, these judges are awarding custody to the mother. Now, I asked a question, why is that? And here is the succinct answer. And I said, who is behind this? Who's behind it? Divorce lawyers. Period. Not feminists, not anybody else. You know, the feminists might be thinking that they won something, but really they're just retarded. There is nothing I can say bad enough to convey just how despicable this third wave feminism movement is. It's disgusting. It is beyond. Every thinking human should denounce third wave feminism. Why? Because at the end of the road of third wave feminism is the destruction, degradation, and depopulation of all humanity. There is no bad word bad enough to even convey just how horrible these women, quote unquote, are. And men. Now, as far as child custody, the people behind it are divorce lawyers. Case in point, I listened to an actual divorce lawyer radio show. They have an entire show dedicated just to divorce. And they said point blank, it makes absolutely no business sense to side with men. Why? Because it's the men who have the money. And so they want to extract the money from the men. So not only do they get child custody, but they also ask for the man to pay for the wife's divorce attorney. How ridiculous is that? Women have no money. Women have no power. The lawyer is trying to get all the money that he can out of the husband. Point blank. Just blatant as it possibly can be. That's what's going on. These idiot women, oh, I'm gonna divorce my husband because he left the seat up on the toilet bowl. I'm gonna divorce my husband because he presses the toothpaste in the middle of the tube. He's gone all the time, and I'm sitting here in this $500,000 house, all by myself, all lonely. Why don't you get you a dog or a cat and move on with your life? You married for a reason. If you don't understand what marriage is, and I'm sure this whole homosexual thing is not gonna clue you in any further, right? It's gonna probably confuse you even more. Let's talk turkey here. When a woman sees homosexuals talking about getting, and it's not gay guys. Let's put that to rest. It's women. The people at the forefront of this whole gay thing about getting married are women, lesbians. That's who's most vocal. That's who brings the lawsuits. That's who goes to the Supreme Court. Lesbians. It's not gay guys. I've interviewed gay guys. They could care less. And then the ones who say they do support it, I say, are you in a relationship? No. Have you been in a No. Has anybody asked you to marry you? No. Why are you supporting it? Because I'm gay. That's just like voting for Hillary Clinton because she has a vagina. What do I mean by that? You have no dog in the fight. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're supposed to vote for Hillary. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're supposed to support gay marriage. If you have absolutely no intention of getting married, you're just doing something. They have collected you into a group, targeted you, and said, bam, there you go. So now the woman sits at home lonely, but she's sitting in a $500,000 house. And Vogue and Cosmos says your man should be there rubbing your feet and rubbing your belly and giving you a back massage every night. Because that's a real man. What? No, a real man puts food on the table. A real man has a penis. A real man has a chest. That's what a real man is. He doesn't have a vagina and he doesn't have breasts. That's a real man. There's a definition. And the man is concentrating on providing for his family. That's what a real man concentrates on. Why? Because it's ingrained. And a real man does stuff with his hands. Like build a shed, fix the roof. You know, I always said that I'm not the most manliest man or whatever, what have you, right? And I'm sure you could see by the way I talk and how I act that, you know, I'm more a sophisticated guy, right? That's the terminology for it. But I've been building a couple of things, and the more I build a couple of things, the more I don't want to do research and do videos and do editing, and I want to go build stuff. It's ingrained in me somehow. I mean, it's just, you know, once you unlock that door, it's open, it's wide open, and you just want to go rush through it all the time, over and over and over and over and over. I guarantee you, if you have a feminine boy as a son, go start building stuff with him. He doesn't, he just completely gets into that. Trust me, that's why men are chefs. The most chefs, world-renowned chefs, excellent at it. Carpenters, plumbers, clothing designers. Men do it better than any woman, and they keep saying, "Oh, women are." I saw a horrible commercial. What was the commercial about? Heart disease, but it was supported by Now, which is the women's group, and it was a black woman, and they made sure she was black. She wasn't. What's the woman on MSNBC, light skinned and looks white, even though she has braids. The braids look terrible because she's so light skinned you can't even tell she's black. Anyway, this woman was black on the commercial, black like my color black. He's like, women can do anything, and then it was very subtle. If you didn't get the references, you wouldn't understand it whatsoever. So she's going through time in America. So during World War II, she's got her little red do-rag on in her overalls, and she's riveting the fuselage of an airplane, and then it goes to the 60s, and then it goes through the 70s, and she's screaming and yelling at some sort of rally. And while I'm sure there were women that did that, for the most part, all of that stuff was run by men. And she's, women can do anything. And she's in a boardroom. And then, and they kept moving the scenarios by lifting the floor up and going in sort of like an elevator-like thing. But, and in the last one where she's in the boardroom, they lift the elevator up and she falls to the ground, dead. And it says, heart disease affects women. Donate to make sure you pay for women. You know, a lot of that stuff, I just say, are people really that stupid? Donate to, you know who donates to stuff like that? And you know who, are we talking about research? They're just saying donate. Nothing specific, just donate. Just give us money. Because vagina. And that's the point of this whole divorce, child custody thing. Vagina. Women have no money. Let's not talk about equal pay, or let's talk about equal pay. Women don't have money, women aren't paid as much because women don't work. They took all men and all women and compared the incomes. That means they took all women, including housewives, and gave them a zero. They didn't even give them an equivalent, right? Because ostensibly the husband pays for the wife anyway, right? That's why she's a housewife. He can cover himself, and he can cover her, and he can cover everybody else in the house. Which leads me to another video that I'm going to do about quit trying to fight your husband. Quit trying to fight the man of the house about money. I'm going to do a whole series about money and household income and revenue and all that sort of stuff. But the lawyers came out point blank and said, woman, you have no money. You don't even interest us. And we're not interested in joint custody. We are going to go for sole custody every time because we get paid a percentage of everything that's decided. Not just billable hours. We get paid in a contingency fee on everything. And we are going to ask the court to judge against the husband in a divorce so he can pay us two. Double, triple, quadruple, everything. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And what's funny is the woman doesn't get insulted. Oh, well, I got my money. She doesn't go, you know what? This whole divorce thing is terrible. First of all, how did I even get to the stage where I'm sitting in court having a divorce? This is the man of my dreams. I had 5 children by him. I live in $500,000. She never stops and says that. She just goes, oh, I got half of more than half, way more than half, destroying, not destroying the man, destroying capital, destroying businesses. How ridiculous is that? Destroying businesses to the point where now 25 people are affected by your pet peeve about the dead toilet seat. I already said it in the video. I said, if it bothers you that much, why don't you save a few $100s and get you an automatic toilet seat toilet, where the toilet completely closes, the lids completely close every time you get up from the toilet. Every time you use the toilet. Everything. You have to open it up, and then when you leave, it completely closes. If it bothers you that much. If you're too lazy to clean your own house, go hire a maid. In fact, I think if the woman went through all the things that gave her a pet peeve and she had to pay for it, it would become clear just how stupid she is and just how lazy she is. I don't want to clean this, I need to pay for somebody to clean my house. Okay, when you have to pay for that out of your own money, and here's the kicker. The income that pays the expenses in the home is from the man's income. The woman's income, she can buy herself. I talked to a bus driver, lady bus driver, and she said, I'm not working because I have to drive a bus that I can't make it into speed. My husband covers all of that. I'm working because I want to buy me an Escalade. Really? You're working, you go through all of this stuff, you're over 60 years old, you go through all of this so you can buy you an Escalade. You probably live in a mediocre house to begin with. So inefficient with money. Black lady, of course. I'm working so I can buy, I mean, just the juvenile concept of how money works. And I can't convey to the women that your divorce, whatever you think that you need to do, that you have to, is so important that you have to have a divorce from your husband of 5, 10, 30 years, you've been married 30 years and you're getting a divorce. You're stupid. You're retarded. There is nothing. And it can't be that he's beating you. It cannot be. And they just came out with stats that 40% of all domestic violence is committed against men. They said it on the mainstream media because Debbie Wasserman Schultz came out and started talking about you should be able to abort a child 2 hours before it's born naturally. These are your Democrats. And she said that all Democrats believe that. And if not, they're not a Democrat. And look at black people just going, just like cattle led to slaughter. Oh yeah, I'm a Democrat. But the man's income goes to pay all the expenses in the house. And I can't convey to women that there is nothing that important. Oh, well, we've just grown apart. We don't talk anymore. Well, then talk. Stop being a stupid cow and talk. What do you want? Do you want a girlfriend or do you want a husband? If you're clueless that men don't sit around and talk about their feelings, all of my arguments last about 15 seconds. The person says something, Henri, and then, was that an English word? I don't know. Is that I don't know. Sorry, I speak 5 languages. The person says something that they're annoyed about, and then I respond, and if the person doesn't say, yeah, you're right, then I walk off. And that's the end of the argument. There's no, well, I feel I was really hurt by your, what, you know. I tell my roommate all the time, oh, that would hurt me if I had feelings. But if you can't be this clueless about men. Men are not going to open up and talk about their feelings. You don't want that. Trust me, ladies, you don't want that. If you find a man who really opens up about his feeling, you have a girlfriend. That's a girlfriend. That's a feminized man. That's no longer a man. And if you want to change your husband into a girlfriend, you need to wake up and recognize what you're trying to do. And that Cosmo and Vogue telling you that that's the man that you want, that's why people get divorced. Well, he's changed so much. Yeah, you turned him into a woman. If I were a different person, I'd say a different word there. You changed him to a girl. He loved you so much that he went from this old house type of guy, the guy with the red plaid shirts and overalls, into who's the guy on CNN, the gay guy on CNN. That's who you changed your man from a man's man to a really man's man. If you get my drift. And then you're going to go divorce him. And he's wondering what the hell happened, because Cosmo has every issue, how to change your man, If you don't like your man, why are you with him? Well, it's not that I don't like him. There's just things about, then you don't like him. And when you try and take a man's personality into your own hands, you're going to end up with this disaster. Then you're going to go out and cheat with the very guy that you say you don't like. The womanizer, the bad boy, the guy that curses you out, the guy that slaps you around. Because that's what you want. That's what you really want. And let's get some psychology onto this. Why are you divorcing your husband? Because you have turned him into a little gay boy. Let's be honest. And now the sharks are circling you and your family that you have built, right? The man has set upon himself that I'm gonna support my wife and children. I'm gonna support my wife and children. I'm gonna support my wife and children. Now you've turned him into a little gay boy that you don't like, that you don't want, that you never wanted, but you were so convinced by Cosmo and Vogue and Elle and Woman's Day that you thought that you needed to change him. And you do your little passive-aggressive thing. You know, honey, I really don't like when you sit at dinner and you don't talk to me. Wait, I just got off of a 12-hour shift. Shut the hell up and be happy that I'm eating your horrible food that you don't know how to cook. I'm being the subconscious of the man, what he should be telling you. And you'd probably like that. Some real honesty. Shut the hell up. Get out of here. Let me eat alone if you're going to nag me. Because you are going to work me into an early grave. Because you're nagging. Because you've been reading some stupid magazine, watching some stupid show. Honey, why aren't you loving and caring like that? Because that guy's gay. He has absolutely no use for your vagina. He wants to be pretty. He wants pretty things around him. And he wants to act pretty in front of you. And then when he walks away, gets around the corner and gets with his other gay friends, he goes, oh, she has a smelly cooch. I could not believe I was hanging out with her. I mean, let's just be honest. And you're trying to change your man. And then you say, oh, he's changed. Let's get it divorced. And then the lawyers are licking their lips, literally licking their lips. Even the lawyer on the side of the man, because he's not gonna push for joint custody. Why? Because he is not going to rock the boat. They're all in on it. The judge, the lawyer for the husband, the lawyer for the wife, the team for the wife, right? And then the lawyer says, you know, you should just really go along with whatever she says. Let's just not argue and draw this out. You should just go with it. Bad advice. Horrible advice. Lawyers are supposed to have a fiduciary responsibility to you. That means that they are supposed to look out for your best interest, and they do not. That means that all of these innocent guys going to jail, they have a lawyer not looking out for the best interest of these innocent guys, are they? They're not saying, Judge, I need forensic evidence, actual physical evidence. No body was found. And then the person comes up 10 years later. That has happened. They had a bad lawyer, right? The lawyers are all in it together. And these stupid feminists then claim victory. Oh, see, the woman is the most nurturing. No, she's not. Absolutely not. I have a video on here that the NFL and the MLB tried to sue me over, showing men holding their children and catching baseballs and footballs and diving to save their children. That's how a man takes care of a child. He actually takes care of a child. He doesn't sit there and hold his hand or hold her hand. He lets the child grow up, first of all. I just watched a multi-millionaire worth $200 million, $400 million, $800 million maybe, say that he taught his children how to swim, didn't put a fence around it, around the pool. Day 2, he's putting his baby into the water, teaching the kid how to swim. And there's an entire league of people that do that teach infants how to swim. They say the infant has been in water for 9 months. He's accustomed to water. He's not actually accustomed to dry land. And we're just building on that instinct. A man doesn't nurture a child. A man lets a child grow. And that's the whole point of passing on good genes, blah, blah, blah. You know, a man teaches a child by example. Sure, the older the man gets, then he just dispenses wisdom simply because he can't go out and throw the baseball with the child. Have you seen the men with the daughter and they play catch because he wants a boy? That's what a man does. Now, if you know of a woman who's going through a divorce right now, I want you to show her this video. And I want you to ask her, because you're a good friend, right? Is there anything earth-shattering that happened in the marriage that led you to divorce? Or, and be honest, did you simply read Cosmo, or watch MTV, or watch CNN, or MSNBC, or NBC, ABC, CBS, and get some fool notion in your head that your husband is supposed to act a certain way, instead of your husband is supposed to act the exact way that he's been acting for 30 years, 20 years, 50 years, and you're trying to change something when in fact you were attracted to the very thing that you're trying to change. I do not believe in divorce at all. And I think there is no reason to get a divorce outside of a wife beating a man or a man beating a woman. Outside of that. Now, I used to be of the notion infidelity was an automatic divorce, but infidelity might simply be a shortcoming of the person to begin with, or I'm not doing my job physically to the woman, or the woman isn't doing her job physically to the husband. That's why people cheat. They don't cheat because they love you so dearly that they just had to go and get some vagina from somebody else. Those two are not congruent. They can't love you so dearly and yet go seek loving from somebody else. They had a woman who wrote an entire book simply about that. Why do men cheat? And she surveyed the men, and that's exactly what they said, because she doesn't do anything. Ranging from we don't have sex at all, and yet she wants to scream about infidelity. Well, if you're not having sex at all, you have absolutely no claim over his body. She's listened to some stupid feminist that says all sex is rape, which is, you have to sit down and think, who's saying this? It has to be a lesbian. Has to be a man-hating lesbian to even make that statement. There is no loving woman that's going to make the statement that all sex is rape. No. The two cannot be the same, come from the same source. You can't have a loving wife with 5 children say all sex is rape. It has to be from some jilted, lesbian, man-hating woman, right? Anyway, the woman did the interviews, and it ranged from she's not having sex at all with me, all the way to we do have sex, but there's nothing there. She literally lies there like a cold. It literally feels like I'm having sex with a corpse, and that is icky. That's gross. And she can't claim infidelity when in fact the real problem is she doesn't want to be married. And there's people who are like that. They get married, and then 2 years later say, I just don't want to be married. Not just to you, I don't want to be married at all. Even then, that's some juvenile crap. And when you get down to the problem, when you get down to the analysis, the psychological analysis of that situation, they don't want to be an adult. And when I say they don't want to be an adult, there's no aspect of adulthood that they like at all. Not even the freedom of going out and buying whatever the hell you want to when you want to, which a child can't do, right? They don't want to be an adult. It's not that they don't want to be married. They don't want to be an adult. That's some psychological insanity buried deep down in that person. Then when you cure that they can't accept being an adult, period, then the marriage is fine. So when you encounter those women, just take them to a psychiatrist and fix that. Fix them right up. Give them some Adderall or whatever and fix them right up. Some Ambien, let them walk around the house. Make sure you have a 1-story house so they don't fall off a cliff or nothing. And they'll be good as rain. Good, right as rain. Good as gold. Anyway, so the short answer is that it's the divorce lawyers that are behind not just divorce, but the child custody and why the child custody is going to the woman. The woman thinks that she's getting something. She's not getting something. you're destroying wealth. Everything with me is about wealth. The wealth of the family, the wealth of the family, the wealth of the family. When you get sole custody of the children, that not just destroys the wealth, it destroys the entire legacy of the family. It's destruction. It's not good for the children. The children are now going to grow up with a complex, a complete complex. You cannot raise a child by yourself. I don't care how good you are. I know these women are going to be defensive, but I'm the man no, you're not. You have a vagina. You don't have a penis. You actually need a penis to be the counterpart to the vagina. That's why the African religions were the way that they were, because they observed that men and women are different and together they make a whole. There was no single God for Africans. They were two gods, always two gods, male and female. Yin and yang. The Asians got that from the Africans. It wasn't the opposite way around. I don't care how much of a loving woman you are a woman. And you need to be adult and admit that you do not have a penis. That's the admission. That's the complete admission. You're right. I don't have a penis. I cannot raise a girl, right, without a penis. I cannot raise a boy without a penis. So I have to go and get somebody with a penis who probably is the father of them and have him help me raise each other. So why are you getting a divorce? It comes full circle, right? You're destroying wealth. You're destroying wealth. You're destroying legacy. It's just destruction. And the lawyers don't care. You know, the lawyers have 5 children at home and a loving wife. They could care less. And they are doing divorce coming out of their nose, and they're just making killing. And I recommend that you get sole custody. And we're going to ask for all of the billable hours to be charged to your husband too. Oh yes, it's going to be a great day, and you're going to win, lady. You're going to win. Yay! You get half his money. So now the wealth is completely destroyed, because half doesn't actually mean half. At the end of the day, when they calculate it, let's say you had $100 million. At the end of the day, you don't end up with 50 million. You end up with 20 million. Well, how do you end up with that? Because that's all the fees and all of this percentage and all. You remember, lawyers can take up to a third of some lawyers can take up to a third of what you get, right? Now he's saying, and I want the third of the other guy too. So not only do I want my third that I'm charging, I want the third of the other guy too. So that means 2/3 are being taken out of the nest egg. And you thought you won. Well, don't you love me? You would pay half for me. No. You're not going to get half. You're going to get chump change. And at the end of the day, your family is going to end up in ruins, because no longer you don't have a family. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe somebody can write an outline of all of this in their comment. You don't end up with half, and nobody ends up with half, not even the man. Nobody ends up with a half. And with child custody, you don't even end up with a third. You people are fools doing this. Complete fool. And the women's are, we won. And the feminists are saying, we won. You don't have anything to do with it, feminist. It's a divorce between that woman and that man. You have nothing to do with it. Nothing. If she's fool enough to say, oh, well, I'm going to get a divorce because all sex is rape, and you end up with not even a third. And if it's about money, you're not fit to live, really, in my estimation. Because first of all, you don't even know the concept of money, wealth. The family is the wealth. It's not just the wealth of actually money, 2 people working together to create a legacy. It's not just that. It's also the wealth of the nation. And that's what Africans understood. It's the wealth of the nation, the family. And it's supposed to be, black people, that you grow up, become an adult, get married, and offer something of value to the rest of the people. What is that? By opening up a business of your own. There's a need for businesses always. Everybody needs a business, right? Do you make your own clothes? Do you grow your own food? Do you cook your own food? How about that one? Do you wash your own dishes? Do you have dishes? Do you make your own dishes? Do you make your own dishwasher? Do you make your own furniture? Do you make your own house? Do you buy and sell your own house? Do you buy and sell your own land? Do you build your own walls? All of these comes from other people who made stuff. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to grow up, become an adult, start a business of some sort that somebody needs somewhere that you like doing. Don't become a butcher if you hate the sight of blood. Don't become a carpenter if you were 2 thumbs and you freaking hate hit your thumb, hit your fingers with a hammer all the time. Yeah, don't do that. Do something else. Do something that you love. Divorce destroys not just the family, but the nation. And I'm talking about it destroys. I mean, like 3 levels deep, it destroys a family. Well, I just couldn't stand him. Why? Because you have bad expectations, unrealistic expectations. You've read something somewhere that somebody told you, or even your mom, or even worse, you had an idea of how the wealth of the family is supposed to be, and 2008 hit and you didn't understand that's supposed to happen. Business is cyclical. It goes through ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And then all these people get divorced in 2008. Oh, well, he lost all our money and he can't find a job. What a shiftless Negro. No, it's a business cycle. If you're an adult and you understood money, you would understand that you're going to have a business cycle, and it's supposed to be that we're supposed to go up into a boom, but we never did we never had the actual depression, which means it built up and then it built down. Well, we didn't go down. We were heading down, and then the Federal Reserve said, no, we're not going to go down. Infuse money, infuse money, infuse money. So then all of the business level people never felt the down, which means we have stores still open today that are not supposed to be open. Now, I told you in the last thing that we have all of these firms closing 200 stores, 300, 400 stores, laying off that many people, thousands of people. These are people that should have closed in 2007, 2008. Why? Because that's not what the economy needed at that time anyway. Why is Radio Shack closing so many stores? Because people no longer make their own electronic things. Radio Shack, its main business is to sell electronic gadgets and parts for you to create and construct your own electrical engineering things or component things. Yes, it has headphones. Yes, it has cell phones. Yes, it has cameras, but that's not what they actually cater to people who make their own headphones, who make their own cameras, who make their own cell phones and calculators. Nobody does that. People are stupid now, right? I used to literally jizz on myself going into Radio Shack because I could come out and I could go home and make all sorts of crazy, crappy computer stuff. Loved it. I thought it was the best store ever. Now, not so much. It's a destruction of wealth. We never had our downtime. You remember they said, oh, well, now we're in information-based economy. We're no longer a manufacturing economy, which is stupid. Because even in an information economy, you still need to manufacture crap. If you're going to open up a call center, you still need the little office pods, the desk, the furniture, the phones, the phone connectors. You need all of that crap. All of that stuff has to be manufactured. At the base of any economy has to be manufacturing. The sugar on your dinner table or in your cupboard or wherever you put your sugar isn't sugar. Somebody has to refine the sugar. All of that is at the base core, and they're talking about minimum wage. No, we wouldn't have a minimum wage issue if we still had our manufacturing base. All of the quote unquote poor people would be working in the factories. Then the middle people would be creating all these other businesses. They don't have to make their own tables. They can go to the factory and buy the table, right? We never had a real shift, which means all of these information places would close and we would go back down to manufacturing, because that's where it's at. The world is still brand new. A lot of economies are still, emerging markets. You hear this? Emerging markets. These are people who don't have sophisticated markets. We could be manufacturing and selling to all of those people. Anyway, that was a short answer. It's the lawyers who were behind the entire, and I tried to make it as less complicated than it really is. It's very complicated. The lawyers get all the money. They destroy your family and get all the money. And the base reason that you're getting divorced isn't even a reason in my book, right? I would deny every divorce. Or are you just a whore and you want to have somebody else's penis? Maybe you can have an open marriage, right? If he's going off, sending back hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're sitting in this mansion, but he's away all the time, maybe you can have the pool boy come back. You can have your fill, and then when he comes home, you can be a loving wife then. Thank you for watching. You are watching.
watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
One morning show on all of cable news.
You read about deadbeat parents in the papers and see it on TV all the time. But now someone wants to take a further step. Dick Clark Productions is entertaining an idea, producing a reality show which goes after these parents. The show would track the investigation, arrest, and court process for the deadbeat mom or dad. But critics say it's unfair. And the reason why lots of these parents don't pay up isn't because they're deadbeat dads or deadbeat moms at all. They're just dead broke. Richard Farr is the founder of Kids Rights Radio and the station's on-air commentator. And Richard, thank you for being with us.
Hello, thank you very much.
You know, I describe this as America's most wanted kind of for deadbeat dads and moms. Is that accurate?
That's the way that they wanted to portray the program, and from all of our understandings from the initial discussions with the production company, that's the way that they would like to take it.
What's it going to be called, Deadbeat?
There hasn't been an absolute name yet, and right now they're at the process of working on a sales tape for the program, so this is stopping something that could bring upon damaging stereotypes and humiliating people way before it ever gets into actual production.
Oh, really? You think that it could be stereotypical? Because I guess you're saying that non-custodial parents, they're not all deadbeats. Some of them just don't have money.
Well, that's correct, and then also there's tremendous errors within the child support enforcement system, as well as that there's a lot of money that is in the child support enforcement system, and that's not getting to the children at all.
Okay, we have a question in the audience for you, Richard.
Sure.
Actually, two questions. First of all, if they're not making payments to support their own kids, they're not really dads or moms. Okay. Secondly, if they don't have any money, there are many other things they can do to help their kids out.
Well, have you found that out, Richard? If they don't have the money, how do they help?
There's a lot of parents that work very hard just to be able to be involved in a child's life. The court seems to have an opinion and an attitude to route parents out of the lives of children once you become a non-custodial parent.
Yeah.
So that's really a big problem, that once you can take and enforce issues such as parenting time, you will soon find that the whole child support issue dissolves away very quickly.
So we got two issues going here. One is that whole issue of so-called deadbeat parents, and maybe that's not what they are. And the other was this TV show. Who pitched this idea? I understand it's a police, was it a police officer?
That's right. There was a police officer in Council Bluffs, Iowa, who pitched the original idea, and come to find out that there may be some problems there with him as well. And they weren't exactly honest going into this program, even when we spoke to the executive producer at Dick Clark Productions. And that's another issue that concerns us very much, is that if the executive producer is going to tell us, and please let me say also that, you know, with Dick Clark not being there and him currently being ill, I think that there may be a situation that he just doesn't know, because he is a long-time icon of wholesome America values, and I just think that if Mr. Clark actually knew what was going on with this program, I don't think it would have even have gotten this far.
Would anybody want to watch this?
You know, I'm sure that there's a part of American society that would enjoy seeing, you know, a human being displayed and humiliated. But I think for the most part that this cuts to the very central core of America's and American families.
But I can just hear people saying, Richard, oh, it's just TV.
Yeah, well, you know, TV has a great influence in American lives. It's where we get our news, and it's where we learn what exactly is going on within our society.
Yeah. What's Dick Clark Productions? What's the latest that you've heard from them?
The last that we heard from him, I had discussions with Michael Richards, who is the executive producer. First, he told me that that they had no plans any longer to do the show.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and they told us that they were going forward with the program as well.
Okay, well, let us know what goes on there. And do you want a campaign? You want people to call? Oh, I don't want to call for that. What have you been doing, calling Dick Clark Productions and trying to get them to stop?
Yes, I've worked very close trying to have discussions with Michael Richards of Dick Clark Productions, and have spoken with other people within the organization.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Richard, keep us informed on that story, okay?
Thank you very much.
You know what you can call us, tell us what you think about that particular story there, or any topic we have on Dayside. You simply go to our website, foxnews.com, and you go to the slash and it says Dayside. It's very easy. Up next, these two teens thought they were doing a good deed, so why did a neighbor sue them for leaving cookies on her porch?
Hey, it's Ryan Thomas, and I want to talk to you about the no-win situation. The no-win situation takes on a completely different level of intensity for a parent or a family unit or a child in a parental alienation situation. And what I mean by that is, look, when there's divorces, there's always going to be back and forth with a parent. You know, people aren't always going to be on their best behavior. There's going to be a little jab. There's going to be a little bit of a barb. There's going to be even the kid may play a parent off of each other. Well, dad lets me do this, or mom lets me do that. But when you're in a parental alienation situation, this is where a lot of times it's born. This is where that alienation goes from what you typically expect to be like, hey, you know, nobody's perfect. We make mistakes. Sometimes we make an offhanded comment about somebody else. But this is the roots of it. This is the roots where you can start to see the power and the leverage that you have over your child and how they think about the world and how they see the world. And in my situation, in this no-win situation, it was really a no-win situation not only for my dad, who was the alienated parent, but also for me, because it was constant turmoil, it was constant stress of trying to manage what was happening, manage the strife, manage the constant barrage of insults or of degrading a parent, somebody that I loved or was really trying to love as that younger child. And so that's sort of the context of what we're talking about here, is this idea of no matter what the other parent does wrong, you can find a way to have it be a no-win situation. And talking to my dad as adults, you know, he referred to it as a box. And no matter which way you went in this box, it was wrong. And if you tried to get out of the box, that was really wrong. But there's no way around, so that anything you can do is completely bastardized. So to give you an example, you have, in my situation, if my dad was to buy me something, it was told to me, he's just trying to buy your love. He doesn't really care about you. He doesn't love you. He's trying to buy your love, as opposed to all of the things that they would buy me. But if he didn't buy me something, then that was also something to say, he doesn't care. He's not a real parent. Because Ryan, if he was a real parent, he would buy it for you as your father. He would just pick it up and buy it for you. So either way, if he bought it, he was buying it. If he didn't buy it, he was neglectful. It's the same thing with homework. If he didn't take the interest in it that they did or that my mom did, he didn't care about you. He doesn't care about your schooling. He's not a real parent. A real parent is the one with flashcards, not just asking about it, not just talking about it. He was actually the one that was doing it. So that's not a real parent. But if he did try to go an extra step, if he did try to take an interest or try to help out in that situation with homework, it was very easy to say, oh, I see, now he wants to be a parent. Now he wants to do something. Day late and a dollar short. Why bother now? So anything you do that, from a child's perspective, anytime dad wants to get involved, it's a bad thing. It's for ulterior motives. It's to do something to manipulate me or to do something bad to me, whatever that was. But if he didn't do something, which, by the way, didn't do something can be anything that they make up, because the controlling parent and the regime gets to set the playing field. They get to set the terms. So not caring about sports, or not caring about helping with homework, or not buying something can be anything that they think of to find a way that he's not doing. He doesn't care about that. He's not interested. So if you're a kid and you grow up, just as an absurd example, if you're a kid and they're constantly saying after a conversation, did he ask you about whether or not you like it when the sun shines, and you go, no, he didn't really say anything about that, we just played. So he doesn't care about whether or not you like the sun, and he doesn't care about whether you want to go out and play in the sun, or if he takes you inside on his visitation, he doesn't want you to be in the sun. And you're like, I don't know, I guess. So that's an absurd example, but in this world of nothing you do is right, you're in a no-win situation, the alienated parent is constantly fighting against the unknown, because the controlling parent with all of the influence is the one that's telling the child what's important, what they should be looking for, what cues they should be looking for, both sins of action and omission. If they do something, it can be easily seen as a sin or an act of commission, and if it's not anything, then it's an act of omission. They don't care. They don't give a rip about you. They just as soon let you go out on the street as opposed to help you. So you really see again how that is destructive to the relationship, but also as the kid, I just thought that if my dad did something, it was bad, and if he didn't do something, it was bad, and he didn't care, and thank God I had Mom. Thank God I had all these other people to carry all the weight. And that was the story that was reaffirmed over and over and over again. You don't need him to do that. You don't need him to do that. We're the ones that take care of you. So he can take it and shove it. He's a day late and a dollar short, things like that. But you don't need him anyways, because we're the providers. We're the ones that love you. No one else can love you, not like we can. And if he didn't do something, it's just as easy to say, thank God you have us. You better be thankful every single day that you have us, because if you didn't have us, you see how he is. Be out on the street, living an awful life. You'd have no success. You wouldn't have any friends. You wouldn't have anything. You'd just be you'd be like a little shriveling nothing if it wasn't for us. And so what that also does is that also creates for me a no-win situation, because if ever I want to say something that's in opposition to them, if I want to say something that says, I know you guys said this, but more than I'm getting older, I'm kind of realizing that I might like to do something like that over here. Really? We didn't have much problem with it before. And so it creates this control. It's an unending control. And that control will weave itself into every decision that the child, that me, makes. So you may have a kid that's you know, this high or this high, that's dealing with this kind of stuff. But it's not just about you and the relationship. This is something that's going to hang on, and that kid is going to need some help, because it's going to show up in other parts of its life, just like me. So when this became a non-issue about my dad, when they wiped my dad off of the map and they didn't have to worry about him anymore, it was just like, awesome, next. What else do we want him to do? Oh, he's got a relationship. Let's nix this one. Oh, he's got a marriage. Let's get into this, because this is not what we want. And so it really stays with you, so that anytime you want to, again, draw outside the lines, have your own thoughts, they will just as easily pull. Who was the one that was there for you? When he didn't care, it was us. When he didn't, it was us. If it wasn't for us, it gives them carte blanche over your entire life, over the child's entire life. They're always in a constant state of beholding. And at the same time, in my situation, you go from that selfish love, that controlling, that constricting love, whereas the other parent, in my situation with my dad, was the most caring, loving, giving love, unconditional love that there ever was, that I've ever experienced in my entire life now that I'm an adult. Thankfully, I've been able to experience his love as an adult. And it's so different. And the challenge is that when you're fighting that unconditional love, you want to keep giving it, but it just gets bastardized. Everything gets bastardized. So it's just a word to the wise that while it seems like it's really an issue of that parental alienation with the relationship between you and your child, it's something that's going to just stick with the kid for a long time, and maybe forever. But that's why the sooner we can get them to have those light bulbs go off and discovering what's happening. And I'll get into how do you start to let the child realize for themselves what's going on, and how that experience for me was light bulb, oh crap, oh my God, everything is not as I thought it was. That's where you want to get the child to be, because once that happens, you can start to deal with and help them through all of the complete upside down that they realized that their life was, and how everything they thought they knew is not right. But again, that's a different video, and that is a different set of concepts. So again, in a no-win situation, that is really difficult to you can really lose yourself, both the child and the alienated parent.
We've learned about alienated children and favored parents, but what about rejected parents? How does it feel to be Plutoed, to lose your family and your role as a parent?
Rejected parents feel devastated when their children refuse to spend time with them, stop expressing affection and respect for them. They haven't been prepared for this level of rejection, and they're stunned by it. Oftentimes they're embarrassed, and they worry that others are going to think, gee, you must have done something really bad if your kids don't want to spend time with you. People stop them on the street and ask how their children are doing, and rejected parents don't know because they are not being kept included in the children's activities. And they're very embarrassed. They don't know what to say. They usually try to change the subject. It's psychologically devastating to a parent to have the children that you loved and raised want to have nothing to do with you.
If alienation has been a problem in your family, the rejected parent probably feels most ashamed when ignored or shunned in front of others, such as at school or sports events. When people ask about their children, rejected parents often feel terribly embarrassed, even ashamed. They worry that others secretly think, there must be more to the story. I wonder what they did wrong to deserve their children's disrespect. Parents who have been rejected may begin to doubt themselves. They might ask, did I do something wrong? Maybe I'm not such a good parent.
It's very sad for a rejected parent when they see other parents enjoying their children, because it reminds them of all that they're missing out on. They feel like shadows, ignored. They feel shunned by their children, and it's humiliating to them.
If one of your parents is rejected, they're probably trying to figure out how to deal with this. Should I give up? Should I be tough? Walking away feels wrong, even though this might create peace. Hanging in there seems right, but maybe the emotional cost to you and them is just too much to bear. As a result, and you may have noticed this, these parents often act inconsistently. Sometimes they withdraw and seem passive and uninterested in being with you. Other times they try hard to be involved, maybe even going to court, calling the police, or insisting that everyone see a therapist. It may seem like they do too much or too little, which might make them seem unreliable.
In some families, after repeated attempts to reconnect with the children, a rejected parent may get so discouraged that they enter into a state that we call learned helplessness. all their attempts to solve the problems, all their attempts to reach out to their children fail, and they don't know what else to do, and they begin feeling utterly helpless to change the situation. They may feel that they have no alternative but to withdraw from the children, to stop trying. Unfortunately, for some children, when their rejected parent stops trying to see them, the children actually feel abandoned by that parent because they've never really lost the love they felt for that parent. And the children may then think, gee, maybe that parent doesn't deserve our love. If he wouldn't hang in there and continue to try to see us. They may misunderstand the parent's withdrawal not as a sign that the parent just didn't know what else to do and felt helpless to solve the problem. They may misunderstand and think that that's a sign that the parent doesn't love them enough. In some situations, particularly when there have been multiple attempts to heal the relationship between children and the rejected parent, and these attempts all fail, there may be no better alternative than to at least accept the situation as it is and temporarily stop trying to heal, stop trying to reconnect, with the hope that sometime in the future the time will be right for the children to recover their love and restore a positive relationship with the parent.
Rejected parents often ask others for advice on how to manage this difficult situation. Sometimes well-meaning friends and relatives encourage parents to respond with anger. You need to teach your ex a lesson. Or how dare your children treat you like that? This can lead parents to overreact in ways that don't help. If your parent responds this way, it might drive you further away rather than make you want to repair the relationship. In fact, rejected parents sometimes need to be reminded that all kids complain about their parents from time to time. Just because a child is moody or negative doesn't automatically mean that the child is becoming alienated. Rejected parents seek advice from professionals, such as lawyers and psychologists.
Rejected parents are often told that the best way to handle their children's rejection is to allow a cooling off period, allow the children to withdraw for a while, wait for the right time to come when the children will reach out to reconnect with you. But unfortunately, in many families, the right time never comes. And what began as an alienation, where the children had negative attitudes about the parent, becomes a total estrangement where the children lose all contact with that parent. One of the most important things for a rejected parent is to try to stay in touch with the children. Try to maintain contact. Now, this may mean having to develop a thick skin, because when the children are with you, they may treat you with contempt and with disrespect. But we found that it's easier to help children recover a positive relationship if they spend time with you and if they get to see that the rejected parent still loves them and is not giving up.
So what can rejected parents do? In the words of Winston Churchill, never, never, never give up. Not giving up, though, requires persistence and understanding, and your parents may not have a lot of that left if they've been rejected over and over. When they lose their patience, and nearly every parent does from time to time, parents make mistakes. The favored parent might exaggerate these mistakes to make it seem like the rejected parent always acts impatiently, or that this is why the children don't want to spend time with the parent.
When children treat a parent so disrespectfully, most often the parent is not at all prepared to deal with that effectively, and they react by overreacting. They get very angry, they lose their temper, they ask the children, "How dare you speak to me that way?" But they can frighten the children when they do that, and then the children can use that as another reason for rejecting the parent, because the parent actually has yelled at them, has been aggressive, and maybe scared the children. In other cases, rejected parents will tell the children, "If you don't enjoy spending time with me, why don't you leave this home and come back when you can be more positive?" And unfortunately, the children may use that as a reason not to see the parent. They'll throw those words back to the parent. "Well, you said you didn't want to see us." And what begins as a parent's effort to improve the relationship and solve the problem can really be the beginning of the end of the relationship. It's very important that rejected parents avoid overreacting to their children and avoid rejecting their children. This means they've got to develop a thick skin, and they've got to develop patience to tolerate what is very disrespectful and contemptuous behavior without losing their temper.
If your parent overreacts, you might worry that this will happen all the time. Or you might think that your attitude finally made your parent stop loving you. Secretly, you might even worry that you are no longer someone who is worth caring about. Another common mistake rejected parents make is to lecture about right and wrong, fair and unfair. While the lesson might be true, lectures rarely work. The more they try to tune you in, the more you try to tune them out. If you've been rejecting a parent, you may be frustrated when it seems like they minimize your concerns and complaints. A rejected parent might say, "Oh, you don't really feel that way," or "That's just your other parent talking, those aren't your real feelings." This too doesn't work. It could make you feel that your parent doesn't care or doesn't take you seriously. If you and a parent are alienated from one another or becoming alienated, it is certainly important to talk about what's going on. But one mistake that rejected parents make is to try to show their concern by asking a lot of questions. This often backfires rather than helps. If you've experienced this, the questions are likely to make you feel interrogated rather than cared about. And it may feel like their questions imply criticism, not at all what your parent wants you to feel. Another mistake that some rejected parents make is to counter all the bad-mouthing by saying bad things about the other one. This makes children feel bad and only makes things worse. But rejected parents shouldn't be reluctant to set the record straight when children say things that are wrong or unfair. Your children need help to deal with complaints they hear about you. For instance, a child says, "Mommy says you didn't spend much time with us and we never had any fun together." You can respond, "Mommy's mistaken." Remind the children of specific things you've done for them and with them. Bring out family videos and photos showing better times together.
When a rejected parent overreacts to the children, it's very important for the parent to acknowledge that they made a mistake and to apologize for it. It can be very difficult for a rejected parent to do that, though, because they feel they've been treated so unfairly. The children have been so disrespectful and treated them with such utter contempt that the rejected parent has a hard time acknowledging that he or she contributed to the children's conflict. But it's important that they acknowledge their mistake and take responsibility for it.
We've already said that rejected parents should never give up. Their children are worth fighting for. But what else can they do to help? We'll have more to say about this later in the program, but here are a few tips. First and foremost, rejected parents should remember that their children are victims. They didn't want this mess, they just got caught in it, and are doing their best to cope with something they don't fully understand. Second, rejected parents should hold back from arguing and criticizing when their angry children invite them to argue and criticize. It's important to remember that being in a relationship is more important than being right. Rejected parents need to develop a thick skin to withstand all the hurtful things their children say and do. Third, rejected parents should watch and wait for unexpected opportunities to help their children. Big school projects or medical problems offer opportunities to show interest, caring, and concern. When rejected parents make mistakes, they're acting like all parents do from time to time. Even parents who aren't rejected make some of these mistakes, especially when they're stressed. We hope your parents will learn from this program to avoid these traps. But keep in mind that parents are more than just their mistakes. Maybe it's time to cut them some slack.
You are watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
What you need is a subspecialist in alienation and estrangement who sees it all the time, not the best psychologist in the world who rarely sees it. And so very briefly, the short answer to this question, how does this happen, is this field is highly counterintuitive to anyone who doesn't have extensive training and experience dealing with it. Most people will usually get it wrong. And when I say people, I mean attorneys, psychologists, other mental health experts. The majority of the time, they will not only get the case and the evaluation and the recommendations wrong, they will get it exactly backwards. First of all, and think how counterintuitive this is, in an alienation setting, most children will align with the abusive parent. It's like these kids that you find that have been living with their abductors for years and then they resist capture, or Stockholm Syndrome. Very counterintuitive. Number two, what we would call pathological enmeshment, and I'll define that briefly. It means that the alienating parent has an unhealthy enmeshment with the child to the point where the child has lost his or her individuality. A severe erosion of critical reasoning skills, boundary violations, sleeping with the other parent, or at least doing the bidding of the other parent, inappropriate sharing of information, which all the lawyers have heard of. Pathological enmeshment is a very serious psychiatric problem. And to a non-expert, it looks exactly like a warm, close, loving, healthy relationship. The non-expert comes in with perhaps a PhD or an MD in psychiatry or psychology, and what they see is let's just say mother and father for simplicity, but it's about a 50-50 spread of who does what these days. You know, the two little girls are tightly bound to the mother. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. They look at dad and say, I don't want to see him, he's a bad man. She's perfect, he's rotten. The non-expert says, wow, look at that great relationship. They really don't know how to probe to see if there are three types of pathological enmeshment: infantilization, adultification, making them little adults. Why don't you decide if you want to see dad? Right there, that's adultification. Right there, that's pathological enmeshment. So I repeat, pathological enmeshment to a non-subspecialist, to an experienced forensic psychiatrist, looks just like a warm, healthy relationship. The fundamental attribution error means you look at behavior and you think if you see an angry man, someone who's angry, you say, he's an angry man. You think it's his character. In general, he's an angry man. Never mind that the reason he's angry is someone just stole his car or his wallet. We're hardwired to say, oh, I'm going to stay away from that guy. He's displaying anger. So if the anger is situational, then it's an error. Now, the relevance to us is that when an interviewer sees a severe case of alienation, the alienating parent is cool, calm, and collected. He or she is probably a borderline, a sociopath, or a narcissist, or all three, and is a master manipulator, has learned to convincingly mimic normal behavior, and presents very well. Oh, yes, I encourage the child's relationship with his father or his mother. By contrast, the targeted parent has PTSD, has not seen the child in God knows how long, maybe years, has been told that he's the one who's the problem or she's the one, and comes in all intense, all angry, and all stressed out. Now, I personally sat through a whole course at an AFCC meeting where the person teaching the course said to the people in the group, you can go by what you see. If the parent presents anxious and intense, you can be sure that's how they parent. No, that's an elementary error in clinical reasoning and decision making, not if it's a fundamental attribution error. The severe cases are fundamentally different than moderate cases. In a moderate case, it is very reasonable to try to educate the parent to be more cooperative. But in a severe case, where you have what one expert called an obsessed alienator, that person with almost 100% certainty has a severe personality disorder. Normal people just don't do that to their children. And one clue would be that they block access for years on end for trivial, frivolous reasons that you would never block access to your children for. Another indication or indicator would be the repeated breaching of court orders, which again a normal person would never do. So just to give you a glimpse of the pattern, when you see excuses like they don't like him, they don't want to see him, and I'm not going to force them, you should sit bolt upright in your chair. Normal psychotherapy makes these cases worse. So if it's a skilled psychotherapist who thinks you can come in and do dyadic therapy, well, why don't you find something to apologize for? Johnny, how did that make you feel? That's a disaster. Don't try that. Even with a medium case, they will almost always get catastrophically worse. So you have to match the therapist with the kid. That's my answer. There are two places, one in Canada run by Kathleen Ray, another in Texas run by Richard Warshak. Give them 4 days with the kid, and the kid returns to the rejected parent happy as a clam to be reunited. But they require a change in custody and no contact with the alienating parent for 90 days. Other than that, there is no hope for a severe case. Don't even think of doing it with office therapy.
Hi, I'm Joe Sorge, and I'd like to tell you about a breakthrough study coming out of the University of California that reveals some shocking facts related to our child support system. We all know that divorce is contentious, but why the long, drawn-out battles over custody? These battles pit one parent against the other and put the children in the middle. In most cases, both parents want to see their children, and except under rare circumstances, do the children not want to see both parents. So why don't the parents simply share the children? Well, you guessed it, money. If child support levels are set too low, the children may not get proper housing or food or clothing. But if child support levels are set too high, the payer may not be able to afford the payments. And under our current system, if a payer falls behind on payments, a warrant may be issued for their arrest. And if they're arrested, their driver's licenses are taken away and they're put in jail, where they can't work and make money to catch up on their payments. So it's a vicious cycle and nobody wins. We believe that this University of California study reveals for the first time the true costs of raising children and uncovers damning evidence that our current child support calculations unnecessarily fuel custody battles. So we sat down with a brilliant economist, Dr. William Comenard, the main author of this study. He's professor of economics at the University of California and once served as the chief economist of the Federal Trade Commission in Washington, D.C. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to do this.
I'm delighted.
So if it costs $500 a month to raise a child in the state of Alabama, does every parent pay $500 a month?
No, the state can set different amounts for wealthier parents than poorer parents, can set different amounts if there's 2 children or 3 children as opposed to 1 child in the household. So the states have lots of flexibility. But however they do it, they must pay attention to available data on the economic cost of raising children.
Can an economist determine what it costs to raise a child?
Yes. Suppose you have 2 households with pretty much the same income levels and the same general standards of living. And one of these households might have 1 child, and another household might be childless. And then one can compare the household with a child with the household without the child and try to examine with available data, did the household with the child spend more on housing, more on food, more on clothing, more on child care and education, more on other different elements of expenditures. Suppose it's true that a household is composed of husband and a wife and no children, and they live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they use the second bedroom as a den. Now suppose a child arrives and the den is transformed into a nursery. Let's compare the two circumstances. Well, given my hypothetical example, notice there is no change in housing costs. They spent the same amount on rent when the child arrives as they spent originally. They stay in the same unit. For the most part, your child lives in your household and, consumes the same collection of goods that you consume.
Do people that have their first child spend more on food?
Generally, no. They spend the same amount on food despite the presence of the first child than they spent earlier.
If you have another mouth eating, how can you possibly not spend more on food?
You probably throw away less. Suppose it was true before the presence of children, you would eat out a lot. And we all know that food out in restaurants is expensive. And when the child arrives, you eat at home more. So there may be some redistribution within the categories. I don't doubt that. But your total outlays, don't appear to be that much different in the presence of a child than before.
Dr. Komenor's approach measures what is typically called marginal cost increases. For example, an automobile does not burn much more gasoline with 2 people sitting in it than it does with just 1 person sitting in it. The cost of the extra fuel consumed would be called the marginal cost of adding a second passenger. If we dig into the details of Dr. Komenor's publication, we find that the increase in food expense is, in fact, very low when children are young. But as the children age, food costs go up significantly. This might lead one to believe that child support amounts should be increased as the children age. However, Dr. Komenor's data also reveal a counterbalancing trend. Parents spend less on child care services as the children age. While these two factors do not offset each other exactly, and the results vary somewhat in different economic brackets, total marginal expenses do not change substantially as children get older. How many households did you study?
We looked at over 16,000 households to do these comparisons.
Your control group had no children?
That is correct.
And then the group that you were measuring the increase in expenditures had 1, 2, 3 or more children?
We did it in 3 different circumstances, with 1 child, with 2 children, and with 3 children.
I asked Dr. Komenor if others had published on this topic before he and his co-authors did. He said yes, there are 2 other published methods, but neither looks at out-of-pocket marginal costs.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture annually publishes a report on the cost of raising children. And what's striking is that they use the same data that I use. We all use the same data.
But he said that the USDA method is flawed because it simply takes certain expenditure categories and divides those costs by the number of individuals in the family, including the children. This is called the average costs method as opposed to the out-of-pocket marginal costs method. I asked him to give us an example of why his method comes up with a more realistic measure of transportation costs than the USDA method.
The household had 2 cars before the arrival of children and now has 2 cars still. And for the most part, they say they spend the same amount of money on cars and gasoline and all of that stuff. And the cars had a back seat before, which wasn't generally used. And now it's used with the child. So there's essentially no additional transportation costs. The real transportation cost is the cost of the car seat.
He went on to explain that the USDA method is also flawed with respect to housing costs.
They said that the housing cost of the child is the cost of an additional bedroom. So if originally you had a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 used with a den, then the housing cost would be the hypothetical rental cost of a 3-bedroom apartment where you could keep your den even if that was never used. So again, that was a fiction.
We then talked about a second competing method for studying the costs of raising children called the income equivalence or IE method. The IE method is used by a private consulting firm that advises many of the states regarding child support levels.
They measure the welfare of the household in terms of the proportion spent on alternatively food or adult clothing. And then it tries to ask whether or not in the presence of the child you spent less on adult clothing or food than you did otherwise.
Sound complicated? Well, that's because it is. Let us try to explain the convoluted approach taken by the IE method. The IE method assumes that fewer dollars are spent on adult food and adult clothing so that money could be made available for the needs of the children. The method then assumes that a similar shifting of expenses will occur in other cost categories as well, such as for transportation and housing costs. But the IE method does not measure those shifting expenses directly. Instead, it makes the questionable assumption that parents will give up the same proportion or percentage of their income in other expense categories as they did for adult food and clothing. So it multiplies that same percentage times the family's other expenses to compute a synthetic amount. It then assumes that a custodial parent would need this synthetic amount in order to raise children under a lifestyle that also affords that custodial parent all the things they enjoyed prior to having children.
They're trying to assign a value to keeping the old lifestyle, even though you're living with a child and you don't follow the old lifestyle.
You may not even want the old
lifestyle. And you may not even want, that's exactly right, you may not even want the old lifestyle, but that's not taken into account in these other methods. It's a bizarre approach, I believe.
I asked Dr. Komenor for some examples of what types of hypothetical reductions in the standard of living might be computed in the IE method's synthetic amount.
Food costs are often restaurant meals out, and some people want to have very high fashion clothing and some do not. We all know that once you have a child, your whole life changes and you have focus on your children in a way that you never did before. But the methodology used in this IE method ignores that reality.
Does the IE method measure the value to parents of having a child?
No, it doesn't.
I've read that some of these IE methods actually measure the amount of tobacco and alcohol consumed by the adults.
Yes, they do. Isn't that bizarre? And yet that approach is the dominant approach used today by which child support guideline amounts are determined.
Why?
The reason is because when the states got into this business back in the 1980s, there was no data on the child expenditures, there were data on household expenditures. And so they needed to find a way to go from available data for the household to that which applies to the child.
Did the IE method look at single parents with children?
No, they did not. They only looked at married households.
What about the USDA method? Did they look at single parents?
Yes, they did. They did look at single parents as well as married parents.
And did you look at single parents?
Yes, I did.
Because one could argue that the single parent with a child is the more relevant economic situation than the married or the couple with or without children.
That's exactly right. The costs of raising a child or children in a single-headed household are slightly greater than on average than those in a married household.
You're basically saying that people spend less on children than these other methods estimate they spend on children.
Yes, substantially less. And the reason is because our method is limited to out-of-pocket expenditures, direct
real money.
Real money. What the other methods do is attribute expenditures to children which are not made out of pocket. It's a fiction.
Well, let's take a look at the costs estimated by the IE and USDA methods and compare them to the costs measured by Dr. Komenor's method. For married households, the IE method overestimated the cost of raising a child by about 200%, and the USDA method overestimated the cost by roughly 300%. The overestimates were even more extreme for single-parent households. While the IE method did not even look at single-parent households, the USDA method overestimated expenses by over 300% for low-income households and over 400% for mid- to high-income households. These overestimates have been misleading the states into setting child support awards that are too high, by somewhere between $400 and $800 per month per child. Over the course of a child's dependency, that could amount to nearly $100,000 per child of unsupported costs for low-income families and nearly $200,000 per child of unsupported costs for middle-income families. This begs the question of whether the $120 billion of unpaid child support in the United States today is due to parents' unwillingness to make child support payments, or are the amounts so high that they cannot afford to make them. Essentially, there's a profit in being a custodial parent.
That's exactly right. That's what the current child support system does.
Do you think that this profit factor that exists in the guidelines now can cause non-optimal behavior?
For the child support system to work effectively, it must have the agreement of both parents, not only the recipient, but the payer. And the payers recognize that the amount of money that they're obligated to pay exceeds the actual expenditures on the child. They know that. They live it. And so what the payers are funding is not merely the cost of raising their children, but also a financial asset which benefits the recipient. And of course that creates discord between the parents. The payer objects and the recipient feels entitled to it, which would not be true if the child support award amounts truly reflected the out-of-pocket costs of raising children.
And is there a venue where this discord gets played out?
In the courts, in divorce courts.
This is one of the most contentious areas of family law, and the unfortunate truth is that children are paying the price for a flawed system. If you would like to see your state review its child support guidelines, please contact your state legislators and let them know that children should not be used as pawns in an economic battle involving their parents and their lawyers. I hope that with your help, we can work toward reducing the conflicts inherent in our family court system. I'm Joe Sorge. Thank you for watching.
You are watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.